Yeah, it's like Gremlins don't do that, right? Right at 7 o'clock, I'm flipping out trying to figure out what button to push.
Yeah, and I was sitting here, I was watching the going live and the countdown's down to 0, and,
Well,
and I was waiting on it to pop up live, and I was at the same time, and it's still waiting on 0.
yeah, but look, we still made it within the window, so it hadn't rolled to 7:01 yet. So we're technically on time. I think we've only been late a minute or two, maybe once or twice. We've actually been pretty good about that, as best I can remember. All right, let me see if we're actually live. Hello, folks, and welcome to the show. We've already got about 10 people watching, and we're still kind of getting everything ready on our technical end here, but, that's okay. We usually fly by the seat of our pants anyway. All right, Mr. Lowry, give me a good audio check.
So you are saying that we are live right now. People are watching. Oh, I see the number. Yeah, there's people watching.
Yeah, so now I'm double checking on Facebook itself. Why didn't I get a
Well,
live notification?
yeah, I didn't either. That's what kind of I was wondering. But I see us live. But we say we're amateur journalists, and we're proving that right now, right?
Yeah, we are because we're being very amateur right now. We don't have, a technical producer or anything. That's pretty much me, and of course you help out with it too, and then you do a lot of the notes and things like that. So anyway, and we're sitting here just yakking our jaws as I try to sort all this out live.
Well, we've got a pretty cool show, and if you miss this show tonight, boy, are you going to miss something. There are a lot of things happening tonight. I mean, today, politically, I mean, from the south to the north, I mean, there is a lot going on.
I thought it was going to be another boring show, not much going on, and I've been running around like a madman today doing tech stuff, and I'm still have on fishing clothes. I've been dealing with the high school kids all weekend. That was a blast. And you're right. And here we go. We have lots of soap opera and drama going on in the political deal. It's like all hell's broken loose today.
Now, I got to tell you, I just recognized that we may have, I don't know, this may be a record, a viewer from the most farthest reaches of the country.
Really? And
We
who would that be?
we we have a friend of mine from up there in the good old Chesapeake Bay area of the country, George Wooden, joining the show.
Well, that's actually cool. Welcome to the show, George.
And hey, Toby, thanks for joining. Judy Madden, glad to see you here as well too. And anyway, so you had a little fishing going on this weekend too, right?
Yeah, we had a lot of fishing going on. We had a 3-day tournament. It was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday down at Red River South Marina. We called it the High School Bass Classic. We had teams from Oklahoma, a couple of teams from Arkansas, teams from the Monroe and Quitman area, kind of all over the place, and of course a bunch of folks from around this area. And actually, it was a blast. We had live concerts. We had 2 bands Friday night, 2 bands Saturday night, live, huge stage. It was actually a lot of fun, and those kids caught a lot of fish, and none of them tore up their boats in 3 days of fishing on the Red River.
Now, were they fishing with like poles and stuff, or they were noodling? Because I seen
Well,
something
that's
that
yeah, that's debatable.
that some of these kids were noodling. Is that accurate?
Well, I think that is accurate. As a matter of fact, while we're letting everybody get their Facebook notifications and all that, I've got a 1 minute video that I want to roll. So, folks, again, these are high schoolers, some of them junior age anglers. They have a boat captain, an adult in the boat with them. The boat captain can't fish, he can do everything but fish. And so this is a 1 minute clip that was sent to me by one of the boat captains out there. And with permission of the boat captain and the parents, I'm going to roll this clip. So here we go.
That you polecats, you ain't finna break.
Never a dull moment with the kids.
How do I get up?
Hold on right there. Hold on. Pull. Grab his hands, pull
I
him.
gotta go get on the
Notice the boat captain's not helping. The boat captain is rolling video the whole
Get the
time. Good job.
water while I'm in here.
This sucker here wild, boy.
That is some good stuff. What was he trying to do?
Apparently, he mentioned in there, hey, do you want me to grab the whopper plopper while he's in the water? Whopper plopper is a topwater bait. They're about 12 or 14 bucks a pop, so I don't blame him for trying to get it. And, of course, the inevitable, you're not going to fall in, and boom, the log breaks and head first he goes. So he's trying to retrieve his lure and, took it in stride. Hey, I just want to say we had a blast. Congratulations to Eddie Hyatt Jr. and Maddox Williams. They are from Lakeside over around Webster Parish, Athens area. They won the thing with 3 really good days. They weighed in 17 pounds of bass, 5 fish on Saturday, and then won it by over 7 pounds at the weigh-in Sunday. We're going to have plenty of footage up at the High School Bass Classic Facebook page. And hey, they took home lots of prizes. We did a raffle for a live $3,000 live scope. It was a blast. Kids had a big time.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool. Well, I got a little fishing in myself this weekend.
Oh, yeah. I think I saw a picture there on Facebook.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, today, me and Kara are celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary, and I'm here on Bossier Watch.
I just can't believe that she has put up with you that long.
She is, and I treated her to such a good fishing trip that she had no problem with me doing a show tonight on our 25th wedding anniversary.
Yeah, well, as luck would have it, just a second here because I'm going to switch screens. We don't have our guest live yet, so you'll see his picture down there. But I'm going to hit publish, and oh look, it's an awesome picture of you and Kara being all patriotic while you're fishing. Double whammy.
Yeah, when we go on trips like that, Kara has this thing of us taking a picture with these crazy hats. I mean, you should have seen the last time I went snow skiing. We were going down the mountain, 3 kids, and me and Kara with these hats on. Everybody thought we were the coolest people on the slopes.
Yeah, excellent. There's a picture of y'all with a couple of redfish. Nice job.
Yep. Caught some, had a really good trip. And I did on this trip, I got to meet a person on our show from, we had, Captain George Barish that told us about, the Gulf Coast and the diversions. We were able to go have dinner with him and had a good long conversation about how things are progressing down there on that, and which for another show down the road, we'll report on that. But yeah, it was a good trip, great anniversary. And I love my wife and glad I got her.
Well, and look, I just full credit to Kara, like I said, for putting up with you for 25 years. But hey, I know y'all are, like most couples, I'm sure you have your moments, but y'all seem to always be pretty happy together, and it really seemed to be kind of the perfect match. So congratulations.
Well, thank you. So, what else on tonight's show? There's more news.
Well,
we just
lots of news. So let me switch screens here again. I was trying to type there for a second. All right, so I've got a list of topics, and we've got some other stuff. We're not necessarily going in this order, folks, but we've got a college bailout or a college building bailout. We'll share a few more details of that. You may have seen that in the little event listing on Facebook. And this is kind of interesting to me, triggered former Seabiscuit. Now, I don't know if we're talking about the racehorse Seabiscuit or the politician Seabiscuit. Which one got triggered?
Well, I mean, of course it's politicians. Politicians are the only ones that get triggered over us making comments. And, but the old political Seabiscuit got a little triggered last week after our show.
Imagine that. Well, some of those politicians, maybe not all of them, but some of them wear their feelings on their shoulders sometimes, and they don't like to get called out, especially if they brand themselves as ultra conservative. you know,
Some more than others. They can sure dish it out, but when it comes to taking it, oh my gosh, they just can't take. They lose their mind. Why
yeah.
is that? That
I,
politicians can dish it out, but they can't take it.
I don't know. Look, there's plenty of them. Well, plenty of politicians to talk about. There's no shortage of that. Which brings us to I'm going to move down to the last item there. Really viewing Bossier. So it looks like there's a new thing out called Viewing Bossier. That's not us, but we're going to talk about it because I'm sure Viewing Bossier or Bossier Views or, well, anyway, whatever it's called, we'll look at that. I'm sure that's going to be a place to talk about politicians as well. So, hey, there's plenty to talk about.
Hey, there is Jeff Sadow just sent a comment in the comments, and I did want to Seabiscuit. If you're watching, you're more than welcome to come on the show.
Yeah.
Just text me or Rex, and you know what? You are the
Hey,
invitation, just like last week. It still stands right now.
well, folks, y'all have heard us say it. If not every show, at least every couple of shows, any of the politicians, they all have our phone numbers or know how to reach out and get a hold of one of the two of us. And look, they're welcome to come on the show too. I'd like to talk about insurance reform one of these days because it hadn't been reformed real well. But anyway, that may be in the future. Hey, and yeah, like you said, yeah, Jeff Sadow, or at least his kind of looks like fake profile. Jeff, you need to add a picture in there and make your profile look legit. We almost thought it was a troll account. But anyway, he's got a link to his Bossier Views at substack.com. Jeff writes a lot of political articles in a lot of different places, so he spun up the one at Substack. That's awesome. And hey, we welcome everybody that wants to talk about politicians or politics in general, good or bad. All right. So moving back up, the bridge opened. Tell me about the bridge because that's a big plus for both you and Kara.
Man, I got to tell you, it was heaven on earth not having to drive all the way around to Benton, but behind somebody driving 20 miles an hour who doesn't have a care in the world, doesn't have work to be at, or kids to take to school, or none of that crap. It was heaven on earth. But
But there's
there's
always a
always
but.
there's always a few buts. Well, life
Right.
has returned to normal, and we focused in depth on that. Remember, we sent a lot of
Oh,
public
yeah.
information. There's people disputing. There's people disputing about who made the decisions, cast in place versus precast, saying, "Oh, the state did that. The state
Hmm.
did that.
Hmm.
The parish didn't have anything to do with that."
Didn't
I
we
mean,
talk about that and like show some documents or something, or is my
we sh-
memory fuzzy?
we showed the documents on our screen. We have copies of them. We showed them where it was a question mark for everybody at the plan in hand meeting to make that decision, you know. But that's neither here nor there. If anybody
Yeah.
wants to argue that, we've got the documents. We can argue that. We can show that.
Yeah. Well,
um
so, but now in your video that you showed of driving over the bridge, or you sent a copy to me, I can't remember if you posted it anywhere. You said it was a little rough. What was that about?
Well, I gotta tell you, I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but it's almost like a little roller coaster. When you hit the approaches, I mean, it's like a dip-diddy-do or a bump up and down when you hit the bridge on one side, and when you come off the bridge on the other side, there's another dippity-do. I'm
Hmm.
just wondering why it's not smooth all the way across. I mean, is that what took the extra 6 months or however long?
Well, you would think as much money as the project cost and as long as it took and all that, you would think it would just be buttery smooth across there, at least for, the near future till, all the traffic goes across it a bunch.
That's right. Well, now there was a kerfuffle the day of it opening, and in cut 5, you'll see what I'm talking about. There was a little bit of a problem going on. It almost didn't open on the Friday like they said it was going to open.
Well, and specifically like Philip said, so yeah, let's go ahead. We'll just get this out of the way. We'll be able to check this off our list. Let me switch over here to screenshots again, and let's get rid of the cool pictures of you and Kara real quick. And I'm going to bring up cut 5. Oh, look, our good friend Philip Rogers, who is a Bossier Parish police juror. And he says in Benton Town Happenings, and folks, if you're not in Benton Town Happenings, but you have any concerns around the Benton area and they let you in the group, trust me, this is a dumpster fire in there. Uh,
Oh, it's good stuff.
but especially if you want to know about the Sonic in Benton too. Full disclosure, I eat at the Sonic quite frequently up there. I've never had any issues. But anyway, Philip says this was, I think, Friday, right? Like Friday morning, Friday mid morning when he posted this, something like that. Anyway, he says the bridge is, in all caps, not open yet. Just got a call from the guys trying to stripe the bridge that all the people trying to cross the bridge are delaying them until the signs are removed from Linton Cutoff on 162 Linton and Palmetto. The bridge is not open. Please stop trying to. I envision people out there with pitchforks and torches lined up trying to walk across that bridge.
Well, and hey, Philip, technically the signs and all are still laying. They're still out there. They hadn't been picked up. They're laying down. They're not standing up, but they are still there.
I
So,
wonder if the folks laid them down or if the construction guys actually, or the state guys
but
actually. But either way.
but look, I want to give Philip credit
Mm-hmm.
because Philip, what was that? Rob Emanuel or what? Obama's like right hand man. He's like,
Oh
don't
yeah,
let don't let anything go to waste.
yeah. Never let a good crisis go to waste.
Yeah, yeah,
Rahm
yeah, yeah.
Emanuel, yeah, Rahm Emanuel.
Well, Philip seasoned on the opportunity, and I got to give him credit because there were a lot of people started sharing cut six and all that, and I want you to show everybody this one.
Yeah, so uh, this was later in the day. Linton Road Black Bayou Bridge is open effective 3 p.m. 7/15/22. Philip Rogers, Police Juror, District 5.
So the good news is we're open,
Hey,
and so we're
hey,
we're going to take credit for it. We're going to advertise for police jury for District 3. But the
yeah,
bad
look.
news,
Well,
we're
but
not going to we're not
what?
going to use our police jury position or title.
Well, yeah, that's true. But here's the thing, too. I'll give Philip credit where it's due. He had said 10 days, which would have really put the thing at Sunday from the day that he made that particular post. And hey, he was 2 days early on this one. Way to go, Philip. I thought I saw you out there, with a shovel and some equipment helping those guys out and sweating.
Well, in a previous show, we talked a little bit about the cost on this thing, and so if
Yeah.
if, the, if those of you that don't live up here and you didn't get to experience this, let's kind of put this in perspective for you over the last year and a half.
Yeah. So let me pull up cut 7, right?
Yeah,
All right. I'm
and
trying to be
we
on the ball tonight. Here we
remember
go.
us joking and talking about, I wonder how many extra miles and what extra expense to the people, that lives up here that's having to drive all the way around, and the decisions that the police jury and the state made, what extra burden did it place? Well, lo and behold, this lady, Amber McDonald,
Yeah.
apparently she did the calculations.
Hey, there's a reason they put the calculator on the phones.
Now, I don't know how much you've been paying for gas, and I don't know what kind of fuel mileage your vehicle gets, but I'm thinking 9,600 miles, that
Mm,
set that family back a few bucks.
yeah, no kidding. We could run the math real quick, just figuring average miles per gallon. But yeah, and not just them. There's no telling if you added up the total miles of everybody. I bet it would just be mind-boggling.
I mean, and I don't see anybody taking credit for the extra burden and expense that was placed on all the families having to drive up here and around these excessive miles, like 9,600 miles. I mean, at my house, I got 3 or 4 vehicles every day going back and forth to Bossier. I mean, I know if this was the actual miles of one lady taking her kids to school one day for this whole experience, I mean, that gum, I know mine's probably 3, 4 times this.
Yeah, and I want to point out. So let me do a little side deal here. Jim Anderson says, "Okay, I'm back. One question: when can we drive a boat under the new bridge?" Well, Jim, I don't know if you're aware, but there have been folks driving under that bridge with a boat for a while. As a matter of fact, I went fishing up there a few weeks ago. We went and found some white perch with a live scope. And anyway, we went under the bridge. So I'm assuming that you can now, Jim. Don't take that for gospel. But if those buoys are down or out of the way, then you should be good to go.
Yeah, and look, to the guys, I mean, there's been a lot of criticism from people and a lot of people who are defending the laborers working on the project. I mean, I don't think anybody's being critical of the employees actually working out on the job. I mean, they have a boss, their boss
Right.
directs them, and and their boss has a contract.
Yeah.
I, you know, there's an argument to be made that the contractor didn't run the job like maybe it should have been. That has no bearing on the laborers. But I think the shortcomings on this project were poor planning and a disregard, for the best interest of the public by our elected officials. And I mean,
Well,
our government.
but even more importantly than that, as your wife who has put up with you for 25 years just pointed out, no pizza delivery.
Yeah. Well, the state DOT guy, and I'll say this, he and we talked about this, and I want to explain this. Precast and cast in place. That was a big decision that was made by your police jury and the state. And on the what we showed on the plan in hand meeting was it was wrote a question. It was a question, precast or cast in place. And everyone that shows up at that plan in hand meeting all sit around and they talk about it and they say, okay, is this a job where we want to do precast or cast in place? And everybody there talks about it and they make the decision. The decision was made by everybody that was there. And, you know, I can name the names of the police jury representatives because there were some that were there. They chose cast in place, which means rather than having a calendar and ordering the components of the bridge being made at a plant and then trucked to the location where you could take a calendar and that company could say, okay, we can have all of these components made on this date, which would allow you to plan shutting the bridge down so as to not affect the public as much, or cast in place, meaning you're going to actually cast the molds of the components you need on location, but you run the risk of having supply chain disruptions,
Mm-hmm.
weather, all those things. And
Well, and I want
that
to
was the
point out,
decision that was made.
just a couple of quick things because while you were explaining that, and a good job on doing that, again, I might add, I just did a quick searching through our notes, and one of these days I'll get all of the captions published so that people can search through, what we've said and all that. But we talked about this on show number 46. Okay, and we're on what 114 tonight. That was back on August the 3rd of 2021, we talked about the cast in place. We also talked about it on show number 98, which was April the 12th of this year, and we probably mentioned it in a couple of shows in between there. So what Duke just explained is not the first time we've talked about it on this show.
Yeah, and I will point out the head DOT guy, Mr. North, great guy. He doesn't agree with that the job would have been faster if it was precast versus cast in place. But I can tell you that I've talked to countless other engineers who say, and we compared a job with the same span, same size bridge in Caddo Parish. We called it the Race. They finished that bridge over there almost a year earlier than this bridge,
Yeah,
and they used precast.
Yeah, and they finished it in what, like, I forget, it was 6 or 7 months, something like that. So even allowing that they were very, very similar projects, even allowing that maybe the Linton Road Bridge was slightly more complicated, I don't know, because of the depth of water or something, who knows. Still, they finished in Caddo in about 6 to 7 months, done.
Yeah,
And over
done.
here, yeah, we're just dragging along, and finally, Philip Rogers came to the rescue and got that bridge finished. Good job, Philip, again.
Good job, Philip.
Yeah.
All the credit goes to you, bro.
Yeah.
But what about the bumps? I mean, can you smooth out the bumps?
Well, they're trying to mirror 3132 down there. There's that one stretch of 3132 when you're going around the south loop down there that's like going over, bunny hops there for a little bit. Anyway, I digress. So we've got a couple of comments. I'm putting them up here on the screen. Your wife says she thought it was 4 months. It may have been, Kara. It's been so long ago since they finished. I can't remember for sure. It may have been 4 months.
Well, where do we want to go now? Do we want to, because we've got some really good Bossier Parish School Board stuff. So if folks are watching, not only is there some juicy stuff with the school board, and there's some AstroTurf going on for sure.
Well, let's do this though before we get into all that, because we've had our guest patiently waiting in the
Yeah.
wings now for about 25 minutes. He may think that we forgot about him. Why don't we go ahead and bring in our guest, Chris Alexander, because he's going to talk about rhinos, and it might surprise y'all who he's going to call out as a
What
rhino.
RINOs is he like
Rhinos.
a South African tour guide hunting guy?
He
Is
must
that
have gone on one of those safaris or something like that. So I'm going to switch
no?
screens and
He's a South Louisiana hunt guy, right?
oh yeah.
Hunting rhinos down there.
Yeah,
Okay,
so let me
okay.
switch screens. And Chris, can you hear us or can we hear you yet?
Well, I can hear you, and I can hear you, and I'm hoping that you can hear me.
I can hear you, Duke. Can you hear Chris? And more
I got
importantly, everybody watching, let us know in the comments. Can y'all hear Chris?
got him loud and clear. Got him loud and clear. So now, Chris Alexander, rumor has it that you're the runt of another little Alexander guy running around North Louisiana, and somehow there's this connection, but you're the runt of the two. Is that accurate or inaccurate?
Well, it's accurate, but he's been whooping me my whole life. But he won't come down here now because he knows if he does, I can whip him now. So now he just won't. Now he just won't show up.
Brotherly love. Gotta love it.
So for all of our viewers that may not realize this or not, and to connect the dots, Chris Alexander is the brother of one Royal Alexander, who a lot of you folks from North Louisiana I know are familiar with. And more importantly, Chris, to hat tip to you and all of your family. I mean, your parents obviously raised a good family. You guys got a pretty prestigious award down in Lafayette here. What has it been? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, that's right. Uh, we were down there at the Republican Victory Convention in Lafayette, and my mom and my dad posthumously were awarded a pro-life award there for all the work that my mom and dad did going back many years, right there in Shreveport for the pro-life movement. In fact, our mom, started the first pro-life pregnancy referral center right there in Shreveport and helped out a lot of young girls over many years. And it was a real honor for her, and my mom is almost 90 now and still hanging in there and really could still whip all of us. And she's just a great lady. And it was really great to be up on the stage with her while she received that award. It wasn't about me or about any of our siblings. It was about my mom and my dad, because they worked in the trenches for many years. And I think it was just, wasn't really coincidental. I think it was providential that my mom happened to receive that award 2 days after Roe v. Wade was reversed. And I think God has a way of doing things.
Well, I got to tell you, just I've somewhat followed your family. Obviously, I've been closer to Royal than any of your other siblings, but I got to tell you, I didn't know that was going to be happening, and I literally was kind of sitting in the back of the room and taking it in, and it gave, I got to tell you, it gave me a chill. I mean, I was just impressed to be able to call y'all friends. I mean, it just
well,
you
that
don't
means
get
a
that.
lot to me for you to say that. I really appreciate that. It means more to me than you realize. And God bless you for saying that. And my mom and dad never really sought any kind of accolades or any kind of awards for anything. They never really wanted attention. They just wanted to try to help the unborn and to help young girls who found themselves in situations of distress, And so we're just blessed to have been a part of that.
Well,
All right.
now I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rex.
Oh, no, that's fine. But I was just letting y'all know that I've been working on this letter that was sent out. So when we get ready to start talking about that, I'll be able to queue up parts of the letter that Chris sent out, and it starts "Dear Friends," and goes right into talking about some of our local politicians. So when y'all get ready, I'll pull that letter up.
But before
Yeah.
you do that, Rex, I have to wish Duke a happy anniversary, and I'll join in your sentiment that I'm somewhat shocked that apparently a very patient and forbearing woman has been putting up with him for 25 years. So God bless your marriage, and God bless your wife, Duke.
Well, thank you. And little secret to everybody: fishing does wonders. It does. I mean, a lot of you guys, y'all with your fancy pants, you want to get roses and all that stuff. Take her fishing. I mean, that's the secret.
Well, I'll be
Take her
honest with you,
fishing.
Duke. Yeah, that might work. That might work for y'all. But if I were to do that to my wife were mad at me, and I said, "Look, I'll make it up to you by taking you fishing," she'd probably shoot me on the spot. So that's kind of a case by case. That's a case by case analysis there, Duke.
I got you. I got you. Well, look, you are an old chip off of the block from your parents, and doing good work. Um, you're up to some good work going on right now. I mean, I think you've got a new group that you're working with, or tell us about what you're doing and how we come to have you on the show tonight.
Well, Duke, we went down to the legislature. We've been down there for about 2 years now, going and watching what happens down there. And I got some very direct exposure to exactly how some of these legislators operate and what they do and how they kill good bills and how they advance bad bills and how, more importantly, how they do it in a way that is often very hard to detect. And so we said, we have to do something about this because these Republicans down here, some of these liberal Republicans are down here killing really, really good legislation and advancing bad legislation. And they're going back up to different places in Louisiana, like North Louisiana, and talking to their constituents about what great Republicans and patriots they are. And I said, that's just bold-faced lying. And we have to show and expose this. And nobody's fighting for Louisiana citizens down here. They're all fighting for the big special interests, and we have to do something about this. And so we formed LCAG. It's Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, and it is simply a citizen advocacy organization that monitors legislation and basically exposes Republicans who are undermining good constitutional legislation and revealing it meticulously, like the way they kill things in committee, like the way Representative Thomas Presley did on 3 separate bills down here, and the way Barrow Peacock very feebly refused to support a veto override session. What a very, very weak man. What a very, very weak leader for him to do that. And again, I don't know these people personally, and frankly, I'm sure they're decent human beings, but I did see I personally observed what they did in the legislature with my own eyes, and our own team did, and their constituents have a right to know exactly what they did. And it was some things that I thought were very, very objectionable and did a profound disservice to the citizens of Louisiana this past session. So that's mainly what I'm called to talk about: Barrow Peacock and Thomas Presley. People need to know.
Well, let's, we have a lot of politicians that come on the show, and we take a lot of shots at politicians, and we talk specifics on a lot of bills and different things over the years. Not so much here lately, but specifically, let's talk about, some specific examples and how that is important to people watching the show. Like there's one in particular that seems pretty simple to me. I think it was HB 594. Wasn't that the bodily autonomy bill? Is that one of the ones in your list of bills?
That is the bodily autonomy bill. That's exactly right, Duke. And it was it was an extraordinarily important bill. I mean, it was so profoundly important in light of the draconian actions of our governor acting in conjunction with the Department of Health and the CDC, just the oppressive hand that they put down on citizens of Louisiana regarding COVID and the vaccine and all the misinformation that they put out there. And he had a really good opportunity to stand up and with his authority and power and basically slap him in the face and say, you know what, you destroyed a lot of people's lives. You hurt a lot of people through despotic decrees that were not based in science, through abuse of your authority. And many people not only suffered then, but are continuing to suffer because of that. And HB 594 was a great bill from Representative Amadei that was simply designed to address that issue and establish once and for all statutorily in Louisiana that people have core bodily autonomy. And we have the fundamental right to make our own health care decisions, and the government has no right getting between me and my doctor, period. And it was a very, very great bill. It included a penalty provision, and it also, that was 1022. But the bottom line is it went before the committee, and it was killed in committee by Representative Presley and Representative Bagley, who's also a Republican, Representative McMahon, and Representative Turner. It failed in committee 11-5. This straightforward bill would simply told Governor Edwards, no, every Louisiana citizen has the right to decide their own medical choices, period. It's a core constitutional requirement. You'd think every conservative constitutional Republican in the entire state of Louisiana would support this bill. But it was killed by 4 Republicans in the Health and Welfare Committee. It failed 11-5, and it would have passed 9-7 if these weak Republicans had supported it. And Thomas Presley opposed it. I think that is reprehensible in light of the history of abuse that the people of this state have experienced under this governor. He had an absolute obligation to stand up on this bill, and he failed.
Well, so here's the inevitable question. Not to interrupt you there, Duke. Here's the inevitable question, Chris, is why? I mean, I know you can't necessarily get inside of Presley's head, but did he seem to give any kind of justification for his, and I would agree with you, for his wrong vote and stance on this legislation?
Well, not that I am aware of, to be honest with you. I feel like it's one of the bills where, he didn't offer too much of an explanation. And I'll curious as, doesn't it beg the question, who is he beholden to, Duke? Who's he beholden to? I know that in committee on this bill, I went back and looked at the committee notes on 594, and it's going through committee. Representative Presley, Beryl Amadei, is sitting right in front of him explaining the bill to the committee. It's a good bill. Presley doesn't ask one question. He doesn't say one word. He doesn't ask or suggest anything about how the bill might be improved if he has a problem with it. He just sits there, says absolutely nothing. He expresses no sympathy or empathy for the citizens of Louisiana who've suffered at the hands of this governor and this oppressive Department of Health, or why a bill like this might be needed. He says absolutely nothing. He's sitting there like a potted plant. And then when it comes down to vote, he doesn't do anything except vote no. And that's not leadership. That is not leadership for the citizens of Louisiana. That's not what the people of his district voted for. If the people of Thomas Presley's district knew that he had an opportunity to codify in law a core constitutional freedom, which is bodily autonomy, we have a choice over our own medical decisions, and he failed to act on that, I'm sorry, but that's a problem. That's a big problem if you're going back home and telling people what a good conservative you are.
So, that why question that Rex asked, and I want to run this by you. Someone suggested to me that on this bill, a lot of folks may have voted against, citizens being able to have the right to determine their own healthcare decisions. I mean, it blows my mind that these guys would not let people make their own decision. But I mean, they said the bill included all vaccines, and one specific example somebody said was well, we don't want to go having to fight polio again. But my
We
argument to that was
nonsense,
go ahead.
Duke. That is absolute nonsense. You know what a red herring is? That's an absolute red herring. We all have natural immunity in this country to polio now. 99% of this country is vaccinated from polio. That's complete nonsense. And it doesn't change the fact that if he had an issue with that, you know what he could have done? You know what Thomas Presley could have done? He could have sat there and said, Representative Amade, I understand that the spirit of this bill, behind this bill, is the fact that people have been oppressed over COVID and all the disaster that has caused. Why don't you just specify in the bill the COVID vaccine? In light of the fact that the science disproves it, that 99.9% of the people who come in contact with COVID are unaffected by it. The symptoms are generally mild. You don't even know you have it. So, yeah, there's a compelling reason for the government not to ever be able to compel someone to get this vaccine. But he didn't do that. He sat up there and said nothing and voted against a bill that, at least in spirit, was very needed, even if he could have suggested an amendment or two. My point here is that he showed no leadership, none. He killed a bill that was thoughtful and that was expressing the overwhelming frustration of citizens across Louisiana regarding the way that our governor and this government has responded to this pandemic, and he did nothing. That's my point.
Well, let me throw this out there as food for thought too. So if he, of course, I didn't watch any of the video or anything like that, but of the proceedings. But if he didn't ask any questions at all or have any commentary or input to that, then it sounds like he definitely had his mind made up when he went in to vote, or he just randomly decided to, vote against it. So if he went in there with his mind made up, then that sounds like somebody else had already convinced him, to vote against this bill. And I'm not going to accuse him of something that I can't say for sure, but a lot of times that's when special interests have come in beforehand. We've seen this over and over again with politicians, and, just grease the wheels to make him vote one way or the other. I'm not saying that's what he did because I don't know, but we've seen that before with lots of political issues.
Right. Duke, look, the bottom line is what he did is far more important, in my opinion, than why he did it. Although why he did it is interesting, and there's a number of different possibilities there. Perhaps he got maybe Shakedown Schexnayder spoke to him and said, I need you to oppose this bill or whatever. Perhaps it was a lobby, someone in the pharmaceutical industry. I don't know who his donors are. We haven't drilled deep down into that yet, but we're going to, and we're going to find out exactly why he did what he did. But the bottom line is, one thing that's indisputable, one thing that is not subject to any kind of dispute, is that arguably we're looking here at 594. Arguably, when it comes to bodily autonomy and individual sovereignty that's guaranteed under the Constitution, arguably the most important bill that came before him this entire session was this bill, 594 by Amade, that we will make our own medical decisions and government get off our backs. You don't have a right to be in our lives on this stuff. And he failed us. I don't know. And again, Duke, to your question, was it out of weakness? Was it out of corruption? I don't have any idea. And frankly, that's of less concern to me than his constituents being able to know what he did.
Well, on some of these other bills, and I'll to for you to say, I want you to segue into some of those other bills and explain those bills, and I guess you could say cohorts that oppose good legislation, you know, and saying that, you said something just a second ago. You said lobby. It, are you saying that lobby is actively, opposing people having the right to be able to choose whether or not to be vaccinated or not? Did they take an active role on some of these bills?
Well, Duke, I'll tell you. I don't know if it was on 594 or 1022. I can't exactly remember, but it was on 1022. Y'all want to talk about 1022?
Yeah.
We can talk about 1022 because this was a bill that was so important, and it was it basically said that the government, no entity can mandate that any Louisiana citizen take any product for which the manufacturer of that product is immune from any kind of civil liability. So basically, you sell me something and it's defective and it's bad and it causes real harm to me, and you're the one who made it. And the reason why it harmed me or my family was because you made it in a defective way. But I don't get to sue you for your negligence. Yet you get to order me to take it. Okay? That's what 1022 was designed to prohibit. It basically said that if the person who makes the product cannot be sued if they're shielded from liability while they're making millions and millions of dollars off of this, but they can't be sued if it messes somebody up, guess what? Nobody gets to force a Louisiana citizen to take it. Doesn't that sound pretty fair to you, Duke? Doesn't that sound like a pretty fair piece of legislation? And it also, the bill created a cause of action if in fact someone did have to take a product, a vaccine or any product, and it harmed them, and the manufacturer of that product was immune from liability, guess what? It would have created a cause of action where the person who took it could sue whoever forced them to take it, whether it was an employer or an administrator, whoever it was, the state of Louisiana, the government, whatever, they could sue them for that. Presley opposed that bill, and he opposed it vocally on the floor of the chamber. It made it to the House floor and it was defeated there. And for that reason, right now, if someone is forced to take a vaccine or any kind or anything by the government or an employer, whoever it is, and it really messes them up, guess what? They can't sue the manufacturer and they can't sue the person who forced them to do it. So they could get to force someone to take a product or a vaccine, but the person has no recourse against them if the person who forced him to do it screws their lives up permanently. Presley opposed that bill, and it is absolutely reprehensible that he would have done that. And the reason why they had a manufacturer's representative down there and someone from the state chamber of commerce down there, and they were saying how this would create a litigious environment, and therefore they were opposed to it because it would create too many lawsuits. Guess what? Sorry, my friend, but if you force me to do something that hurts me or my family, and I don't get to sue you for damages over that, that's a huge problem. This bill would have clarified and taken care of that, and Representative Presley opposed it. That is reprehensible to me.
Now, you 1022. I heard you did an interview with Louis Avallone and Stephen Parr on their show, and I think it was this bill that you were talking about, and you raised Blake Miguez up, and they either asked you a question and got you sidetracked, and you weren't able to finish that thought. Was Blake Miguez or what other representatives were kind of on the wrong side of that up here, or on the wrong side of this bill? Was Were you about to say that Blake Miguez was on the wrong side of this? Expand on that a little
No,
bit.
no, dude. What I was going to say, Blake Miguez. Well, I'm gonna have to shift gears on this for a second because Blake Miguez put forward a great bill, House Bill 811, and I know that you remember Zuckerberg and all the cash that he injected into the swing states up there, hundreds of millions of dollars directly into the coffers of those election officials in those swing states up there, and basically bought that election. He bought those election officials up with the dark money that he pumped into those the election process in those states. And so Blake Miguez, who's a very fine representative from what I've been able to see, brought forward a great bill which would have prohibited any election official, whether they're a registrar, a voter, clerk of court, commissioner of elections, from receiving any private money from any source for the ostensible purpose of conducting an election. It would have prohibited dark money in the Louisiana election process. It would have kept our elections completely clean. And Blake Miguez brought that forward. It made it through the House committee, the House, the Senate committee, and it got all the way to the Senate floor. And Duke, I'm going to give you an opportunity to answer. And who do you think in the Louisiana Senate killed that great bill that would have kept money, huge amounts of private dark money out of the Louisiana electoral process? Who do you think killed that?
I would have to say leadership.
It was leadership, and his name is Representative Blank Page Cortez, as my good friend Moon Griffon down here refers him. I don't get credit. I don't get credit for the name, but it's very apt. So let me tell you what happened. It gets on the floor, okay? There's a point in the legislative session, Duke, at which the required votes go from a simple majority to a 2/3 majority in order to pass something. After 6 p.m., beginning on the second to last day, I believe it is, session, any bills put forward require no longer a simple majority vote. They require a 2/3 vote. And so that's a lot harder to get a bill passed, you would agree, if it gets to that point. So Blake Miguez's bill was down there day after day after day waiting to be called, and you've got to have the Senate president call the bills, right? You got to have it. If he doesn't call it, guess what? It's not getting heard. So Blank Page Cortez, the Republican leader of the Louisiana State Senate, with the opportunity to pass a very, very important election integrity bill, the most important of the entire session, stands up there and delays it and delays it and delays it until a point where it no longer requires a majority of senators to pass. It now requires a 2/3. So he gets it to that point, and then he realizes that it's still going to pass even with 2/3. 2/3 of the Louisiana state senators want this bill, so he had to take it to another level. So he made sure that two of the senators that would have been there to pass it were not there. One had left the chamber and one had gone on vacation. The bill needed 26 votes to pass. It got 25 and it failed by one vote because of Page Cortez, the Republican leader of the Senate. That's what he did, and now he wants to run for lieutenant governor on his conservative credentials. Do you see a problem with that? I do.
Well, the biggest problem I see is that most people who call themselves conservative, if you ask them, well, what does it mean for you to be a conservative? They really don't have a good answer. They just start going down some of the Republican Party planks or, the talking points and all that. But in reality, they're not what I would consider a true conservative. And let me bring up one other point for everybody to think about for a second. So we throw around the term, the acronym RINO, Republican in name only, quite a bit. But the problem is, I would argue that being a RINO tends to be the norm with people who are in the Republican Party. They're actually the norm when they should be the outcasts of it. But it doesn't look like they are. There's too many of them.
Yeah. Duke, was that Rex or Duke?
That was
was Rex.
Okay. Rex, I think you're right. I think you're 100% right. And the reason why they're allowed to fester is that people are not calling them out in the right way. I dare say that there are a whole lot of people in Representative Presley's district who are very offended by the heavy-handed actions of our governor, by the Louisiana Department of Health, regarding this vaccine, and even the national government, without Anthony Fauci and so forth. It was this disastrous experience, and there's still a whole lot of people struggling in their jobs and their employment and their families regarding this vaccine. I've never seen a government engage in such tyranny with regard to a medical procedure as they did with this vaccine, and I guarantee you there are people in Thomas Presley's district who would want to know that he had opposed legislation like this that was very, very important. And by the way, Representative Beryl Amade is a very patriotic legislature, and she stood very courageously on a number of issues down there. She is just a great human being. But we just have to start basically calling them out. And by the way, guys, my group has decided that we're not going any more Republican Democrat. We're going globalist patriot. So the globalist, what used to be the D is now globalist, and what used to be the R is now patriot. Because Democrat and Republican, Duke, I think you may have alluded to that earlier, they don't mean that much anymore. And globalist and patriot, anybody who ties into the big government globalist agenda, they're gonna be targeted, and people who qualify to be on the patriot side of the ledger, well, we're going to put them there. But I think that the days of using these distinctions like Republican and Democrat, and I'd be interested in hearing your response to this, both of y'all. Those terms at this point seem to be meaningless to me.
Well, this is Rex again. Duke, not to interrupt you, but let me throw out one point before I forget it. So here's the only problem. I agree with you, Chris, that saying Republican or Democrat, even like I said, saying conservative, I mean, I can define conservative really easily in one sentence. Most people can't. But here's the only problem with using the terms globalist and patriot. And I understand the meaning and what you're trying to drive forward with it. But unfortunately, that's closely tied. Those are the two terms that our interesting friend, so to speak, Alex Jones used. And we all see what happened to him as they raked him through the coals. And granted, he went off on some pretty far tangents sometimes, but some of the points that he brought up are correct. So that's the only thing that I would caution being careful using those particular terms is, he's already been sent out to pasture and he used those terms.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I would say also, though, that Alex Jones continues to fight. And some of the things that Alex Jones has said have been turned out to be true. Some of the things that he said have absolutely not. But that I'm listening to what you're saying, and it's important that I didn't even realize, frankly, that he use those designations, globalist and patriot.
Yeah, now I've kind of outed myself that I used to listen to Alex Jones, I suppose. But like you said, a lot of the topics he brought up were spot on. But yes, those were two of his, I would argue, most used buzzwords. And you know how marketing and branding and all that sort of thing matters now, and everything's narrowed down into, just a couple of keywords and sound bites. So you may want to go back and do a little digging on that. But I agree 100% with the sentiment of using those terms, of course.
Yeah.
Rex.
That makes sense to me. And we just so do you agree with me, Rex, that the term Democrat and Republican right now in the current circumstances that we live in are almost indistinguishable?
Well, I agree 100%. As a matter of fact, I tell everybody, look, I vote Republican because I can't vote for anybody that stands for the Democratic platform. But the truth is, I would argue that I'm far more of a libertarian / independent, so to speak, in many of my views, simply because the Republican identity, in my opinion, especially here in Louisiana, as you've just pointed out with some of our quote unquote fellow Republicans, the whole brand is tarnished.
It is. Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. Can I go to one other bill regarding Presley? Then I want to move to something else, if y'all don't mind.
We're going to go there, but I can't let you go too much further because I got to go back to a few things that you said. Now, you said Paige Cortez is running for lieutenant governor, but isn't it true that it's rumored that Schexnayder is going to try to make a run at lieutenant governor as well?
That Duke, that's what I hear, and that will be an interesting situation. I don't know how that's all going to work out, but I did hear that about Schexnayder. I've actually heard it about both of them, and I do know this. Given that recently, again, I don't know what your feelings are about Billy Nungesser. I think he's a good person. I think he's got a great heart. I don't know how philosophically conservative he is, but I think he's a man of service. I think he's got a good heart. But I'll say that I went to, I was at something for Billy Nungesser not too long ago, and Clay Schexnayder introduced him. And I thought while I was there that was probably, if you're trying to burnish your conservative credentials, that maybe it's not a good idea to have Clay Schexnayder introducing you at an event. That's just my estimation of it. But that kind of gave me some indication that Schexnayder wants to be lieutenant governor. But I've heard from people that Paige Cortez does. So I don't know how that's going to shake out. I do know that Paige Cortez a couple of times during the Senate session would walk in there and walk up to Paige Cortez up at the at the top there and they would talk and he'd hand him different things. And I know what they were doing. Paige Court, they were talking about bills that they wanted to hear and bills that they wanted to kill. And we're talking about two liberals. Okay. I'm sorry. Those guys are liberals.
Well, the word that I was told, the word that
Governor Edwards,
Chris,
and they do not have any allegiance to the Constitution or to conservatism. I'm telling you, I saw it with my own two eyes.
Well, Chris, okay, I got to ask you this question. I've been trying to get it into you for a while here now, because what I understand is what was going on down there was that Schexnayder and Cortez were at war and were killing each other's bills, like the election integrity bill. I think it was 1022 that you were talking about with the Zuckerbucks. That Cortez was trying to kill a Schexnayder bill because they were at war. Is that
Well, if they were
observation
at war,
that you made?
If they were at war, Duke, I can tell you right now, they had a funny way of showing it. I was sitting there watching them, and I watched Schexnayder go into the Senate chambers and go up and talk to Cortez, and they would visit and this, that, and the other. And look, all I know is the bills that they had an awful lot of bills in common that neither one of them wanted. So if they were at war with one another, they still had an awful lot of things in common that they jointly wanted to kill. And I know I can tell you that there are no two people in Louisiana politics who have done more over the past 2 years to sabotage the conservative agenda and good constitutional legislation than those two guys. They do not have a right to serve in elected politics in Louisiana ever again because of what they have done. The fact that Cortez, for instance, would kill a bill that would have cleaned up our election process, other bills too. I could sit here and talk to y'all all night about what that guy did right in front of me in the state legislature. It's one of those deals where we have to make sure that people understand exactly who he is and exactly who Schexnayder is. It's just Duke, I'd love to sit down here with you and Rex, just for one day down there at the legislative session and just get your reaction to some of this stuff.
Well,
I think you would find
a lot of this
interesting.
Isn't a lot of this from these legislators that are supposed to be representing the people? And we had this conversation not too long with Congressman Higgins, and talking about DC. But Baton Rouge isn't that much different. And isn't it a lot of wheeling and dealing? It's not about what's best in the best interest of the citizens, but, isn't it about, hey, the buddy system, you help me with my bill, I'm going to help you with your bill. And, what's best for everybody is not what the end result is. It's what ends up being the best for, the legislator who's trying to push some issue.
Yeah. Duke, I gotta tell you that's what I've seen very, very directly. It's like you walk in there, and one of the big complaints that my wife had, you have a whole host of Louisiana citizens who go down during the legislative session and testify very passionately about these bills that are not good, and some, in favor of some that are good. And it is amazing the degree to which you kind of sense this condescension. You sense this idea that these guys are sitting up on a throne somehow, and they're not really accountable to us. They just kind of have to put up with us for a few hours and listen to our concerns and then do whatever the hell they want to do anyway. And I'm telling you that people sense that when we're down there. They do not view themselves, this is my perception, I can't speak for anyone else, but they do not view themselves as really accountable to the people as envisioned in the Constitution and in the Declaration of Independence. They view themselves, once they get there, as beholden only to the special interests and not to the average Louisiana citizen anymore. And I just think that it comes with the old notion, y'all probably heard this, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's very difficult to get into a position of authority and political power and not become corrupted by it. And it's the very rare man who can avoid that. In fact, probably the last one was probably Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the Roman Empire for 18 years and never, ever became corrupted by it. In fact, he wrote the Meditations. He was the great Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius, and he was one of the very few leaders in history who actually had enormous power, but never allowed himself to become corrupted by it. And I can't say that about anybody, or very, very few down at the state legislature.
Well, go ahead, Rex.
Well, I was going to say, so I just had a comment up on the screen. I'm going to put it back up there. This is from Linda and Wayne, Whittington, Villa Moret. Said all the deals that are made at Ruth Chris Steakhouse, and they are all in there together cutting their deals. I've seen this myself several times while I was in Baton Rouge. They are all one. I think that is one of the big problems.
Yeah, Rex, well, I think you're right. You're right about that.
And Chris,
and it's
something
one of the
else.
Deals where the only thing we can do, is make sure that every voter in these districts is aware of exactly what they're doing. We have to do it because they believe that they are untouchable, and we have to show them that they're not untouchable. I don't know.
Well,
it's barely.
Chris, don't we need more people? Chris, don't we need more people running? That's because there's not any competition. While we've been on the show, I had somebody ask him, who's running against Presley? Is anybody going to step up and run against Presley? Here's another thing. Qualifying for school boards. How many school boards across the state of Louisiana abused, the families and the children over all of these COVID mask mandates and all this BS? They belligerently abused people, in my opinion. How many people are right now, because qualifying is what, here in a couple of weeks?
Yeah. In other words, you're
for
saying,
the majority of school boards across the state,
who's going to jump up and run for school board?
Yeah, because everybody watching the show, it's all great to hear us talking about these bills and the failures of our elected representatives who go down there and do one thing and then come back home and say they did something else. But if people, regular people,
your point is,
who's going to challenge them?
Yeah, that's a great point. And honestly, it is a big, big challenge to find good people to run against these guys. And we found one down here, but we're looking every day, Duke. We're looking every day to find good candidates to run against these guys. And Paula Davis, Moon Griffon calls her Paula Pelosi Davis. She is the biggest rhino in the state legislature, but she's attractive. She's blonde hair, attractive girl. And she won last time unopposed, but she's horrible. Okay, just absolutely horrible. She makes Thomas Presley look like Winston Churchill. Okay, and all I can tell you is we found someone to run against her. I'm not going to say his name yet, but he's going to run against her, and I think that she's vulnerable, and he's probably going to knock the biggest rhino in South Louisiana out of the state legislature if we work hard enough. But I agree with you. People have to step up and understand that if we don't start challenging these people and you don't show courage and come forward, ultimately we're going to lose our republic. We're going to lose our freedom. We're going to lose our liberty. And it takes courage to do it. So you're right. Somebody has to challenge him. And again, I don't know Presley's whole record. You may know more about his record than I do. I just know what I saw in 2022 on some critical bills, and I'm thinking, why would a Republican from North Louisiana, my hometown, come down here and oppose this legislation right in front of me? Why would you do that? What's the reason for that? And I haven't found one. And I think that if we continue to expose these things, perhaps it will encourage conservative constitutional citizens to run for office. And that's what we're doing.
So we got a comment here. It says Dodie Horton had an incredible bill in education and it was killed in committee. Now, before we segue over to Dodie, I want to remind everybody that Dodie also tried to put up the infamous basically toy gun bill at the behest of our good sheriff up here in Bossier Parish, and we all know how that went. But Chris, in your letter from your group and organization, you mentioned Dodie Horton. Now, up here, Dodie is well loved in District, what does she do? District 9, I believe. So tell us a little bit, because this will relate directly to Bossier folks up here. Tell us a little bit about Dodie. Why is she kind of in the crosshairs?
Well, I love Dodie. I think Dodie's a good representative. I think she's done a lot of things. She did. The only thing I can possibly criticize Dodie for is that she did vote for this House Bill 165, was this green energy wind turbine boondoggle. And I think that maybe she didn't fully understand the bill, didn't really understand necessarily what was going on there. And, it's I got to tell y'all, it's very difficult for me to criticize Dodie because she brought a bill down here. It took a lot of courage for her to do it. And it really shouldn't take a lot of courage in Louisiana to bring the bill that I'm fixing to tell y'all about. But it was House Bill 837. And basically all the bill did, all it would have done, it would have prohibited public school teachers who teach kindergarten through 8th grade from allowing the teacher in those classrooms to talk about the teacher's gender identity or sexual orientation to a classroom full of grade school students. And it was brought forward because of all the poison that's being introduced in the public schools across the country. It was a good bill to basically say, guess what? When you're in the classroom, listen, you freak, don't bring up this kind of bullshit to the students, okay? You just can't do it. Talk about the subject at hand, talk about the issues at hand with your students, but basically it was don't bring up perverse sexual ideology in the classroom. She brought it forward, and it was a very, very good bill, and I couldn't believe it. I'm sitting down there in the education committee, guys, and the bill was killed by Republican Representative Lance Harris, Republican Representative Vincent St. Blanc, the RINO Barbara Freeberg out of Baton Rouge, and the RINO Stephanie Hilferty out of Jefferson and Orleans Parish. Those 4 Republicans killed a bill that simply would have prohibited teachers from talking about radical sexual concepts to public school students in the classroom. Okay? And the bill lost in committee. If all those 4 Republicans had voted for it, it would have gotten out of committee in an 8-3 vote, and it would have gone into the full House and probably would have passed. The Republican chairman, Lance Harris, had a great opportunity to lead on this bill. I don't know who bought and paid for him. I don't know. I don't have any idea who owns him, but somebody owns him, because a Republicans from Rapides Parish, chairman of a committee with a bill like this, to basically not only vote against a bill, but, well, actually, he didn't even have the courage to vote on it. He didn't even vote. But the 3, which basically, so then the other 3 voted against it. Bottom line is, it's reprehensible that this bill would have been killed by 4 Republicans in committee. This is a reprehensible failure to protect our public school children in school in Louisiana. And everybody should know these 4 Republicans' names. And Dodie Horton brought the bill, and I couldn't believe it. I'm sitting down there watching this, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. The kind of garbage they were coming up with and the objections it's like, who owns you? I felt like standing up in there and just saying, Representative Harris, who owns you? Because you're absolutely not accountable to the citizens of Louisiana. How do you oppose a bill like this? And how do you encourage, he's the chairman of the committee, by the way, and how do you encourage these 3 other Republicans to oppose a bill like this to protect Louisiana public school students? I just couldn't believe it. So it's very difficult for me to criticize Dodie, but I will say that, that she did vote for the green energy bill, which was just a monstrosity that passed in both houses, the House and the Senate.
Well, obviously there somebody has to be cashing in on this green energy wind turbine things. Look, our oil field service company, we worked up in the Rockies for countless years, and I can tell you, if you will travel up there to the foot of the north end of the runway in Casper, Wyoming, you can find the windmill graveyard burial ground right up there of all those dadgum wind turbines. They're burying them in the ground because they can't destroy them or something or another. What are we going to do? Just dump them off in the ocean with the next Katrina, Rita, Ida, or whatever that comes through there? Or are they just going to let them lay on the ocean floor out there? Because I don't think those things are going to be able to handle it.
They hadn't even built them out there yet in the Gulf. But I will tell you one. That they everywhere this kind of wind energy turbine, green energy stuff has been tried, Germany and in other places, it's been a colossal failure. It just does not work. First of all, you have to rely on the wind's not blowing. Guess what? You don't get any energy. It's just not reliable. Secondly, there are thousands of birds that are killed in these turbine blades. It's an environmental disaster. But it just
that's a good
work.
point. That's a good point. Where's Ducks Unlimited? where is Ducks Unlimited?
What? That's a great point. Do you realize? I can't even remember the exact statistic, but it was staggering to me when I read the amount of wildlife that is killed every year by these turbines. I couldn't believe it. It was like, you got to be kidding me.
Well, who would have thought that?
It just blew my mind.
Who would have thought that giant blades turning around, in the sky and in thousands and thousands of acres would have killed birds? Who would have ever thought that?
I don't know. You have to be,
what elected officials? What elected official is going to profit off of this? Getting these wind turbines down there in the Gulf.
Let me tell you, one of the co-authors of the bill. What I'm fixing to tell you guys is really the kind of thing that I think really turns off voters in Louisiana. One of the co-authors, Representative Joseph Ogeron out of Houma, I think it's Houma Thibodeau, owns Second Wind. It's called Second Wind LLC, Second Wind Machine LLC, or something. I don't know. Anyway, about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, his company built two of the big super feeders. And you have to have the big super feeder vessels in order to transport the turbine components out to their offshore site so they can construct all the turbines out there. So his company built the big super feeder. And then a year later, 18 months later, he happens to be one of the co-authors of this legislation that's designed to build turbines over 25,000 acres of Louisiana offshore water. Well, his company stands to make tons of money off of this. Was this disclosed to anybody in the legislature? Was this disclosed by any other legislator? Hey, look, you know what? This doesn't really look good nationally. This doesn't really look good to the citizens of the state of Louisiana. Do you think maybe someone should say something about this? Nobody said anything. And guess what? The bill flew through the House and flew through the Senate. And now it's law in Louisiana. And big green energy companies are going to be getting hundreds of millions of dollars of federal subsidies, our taxpayer money, in order to build these turbines that don't work in our Gulf. Should that make some people mad?
Well, it's always, goes back to the old saying, follow the money and just see where that leads. And, it's unfortunate if this is the case that, legislators like Dodie or whatever, I'll give her benefit of the doubt on this one because she did help with the Cypress District legislation and putting that forward and did as well as she could with it. But I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she just didn't pay close enough attention to the legislation or whatever, and maybe she didn't know about the potential conflict of interest here. So,
yeah, I think maybe so because I think she's got a sincere heart, Duke, and I think that she is. I just think she's a good person, and I'm not sure that. And I think that maybe she was misled a bit. Dodie's got a good heart, maybe a little bit naive in some ways, and I think maybe she was misled by some of these people. But I've seen her do too many good things to put her in the category of some of these other people. I'll tell you that. I just can't really do that in good conscience.
All right. So as we've been talking, I've been putting up, the couple of 2 or 3 pages of the letter that you authored and all that with the Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group. So if people want to follow your group, is your group on social media? How would they do that, or how would they keep up? Do you have a mailing list or anything like that?
Duke, we are very, very close to having our website put up. This really is something that was kind of born organic out of the very latter part of the last session when I just finally said, nobody's speaking for the citizens down here, and these people are hypocrites because they're doing one thing here. And so we decided we're going to do this. So we're very, very young in the making, but we almost have our website up, and I'll go ahead and give it. It's www.lacag.org, www.lacag.org, and the email is the primary email is info at lacag.org, and we are just very, very excited about doing what needs to be done. And our primary focus is to expose Republican legislators who are sabotaging the constitutional legislation, good legislation designed to protect the citizens of Louisiana, some of which we've talked about, and expose Republicans who support legislation like HB 165, which is not in the best interest of Louisiana citizens. And that's what we're all about, and that's what we're going to do, and we're going to do it unapologetically. And Duke, we're also going to speak out and try to find good conservative young men and women to run for office because we have to have it.
Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and you're more than welcome to stay. We could actually sit here and go till probably midnight, or I don't know, maybe even daylight if we wanted to. But we've done a 3-hour marathon show before, but I've certainly enjoyed the conversation, and we'll make sure and start following your group too, especially if y'all happen to get on social media on Facebook or anything like that. We'll keep an eye out on your website, make sure that any of the materials that y'all release, we'll share out as well, just to try to keep everybody informed.
Thank you for that, Duke. Thank you for all of the work that you do, and for your uncompromising on things that really matter. And all I can tell you is they call you Duke for a reason. That you were not named Duke by accident.
Well, thank you.
All right, so shall we end the segment there with Chris and let him get back to his normal life and family or whatever, and we'll proceed on bashing our local politicians?
God
We
bless
will continue
y'all. Have a
on.
great evening. Thank you for having me on, and I'll come back anytime. Y'all keep up the good work.
You're welcome anytime. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you,
Take
Chris.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Chris is a machine. I think he could have went all night.
When he gets on a roll, he's on a roll. And I put a little comment up there about dropping the mic and taking no legislative prisoners. So, but hey, look, what he's telling is the truth.
Yeah, and I saw, Danny McCormick chimed in when we started
Yeah.
talking about the school board. Actually, qualifying is, tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. So look, if you're one of those people that, didn't feel like the COVID mask mandates and the decisions that were being made, and now is your time. It's time to step to the plate and run for office. And the thing is it's not that you're saying somebody's a bad person, but if you don't agree with the decisions that were made, and you feel like the decision that was made was wrong, you should run and you point that out. You're basically running that you don't agree with the decision that was made. It's the same as running for the legislature or any other seat. Yeah, is the deck stacked against you? It is. But through debate and arguing and talking about this stuff, that's how we get it out there.
I agree 100%. It goes back to that one word, participation, or the lack thereof. Okay, so we've covered the bridge. We had and as Toby Thibodeau says, awesome interview with our guest, Chris Alexander. And we've had some great commentary going on. And Ryan Haygood, I do see the comment there about crash insurance and defense attorneys. That is one topic we are going to get into soon. We're going to, take a look at the insurance reform and see how that's going. So, yeah, we'll get into that. But anyway, so we basically have a couple of other topics that we had on our list to talk about tonight. Shall we talk about another? I would argue maybe boondoggle. You might be for it, I don't know, or maybe against it. Shall we talk about bailing out the college, or shall we talk about racehorses as in Seabiscuit?
Well, Seabiscuit, word on the street is that he's got a new nickname.
Oh, really? So what's the new nickname?
That he's no longer, the word on the street is that he's no longer Seabiscuit.
Well,
That's so old school.
Wait a minute. Is he trying to change the nickname and moniker that everybody else has given him, or is somebody else trying to?
Well, apparently, he's look. Apparently, we triggered him last week because
What? Surely not.
We talked about it a little bit last week, and apparently he got triggered.
We did not talk about him, and I would remind everybody, including Seabiscuit, that he is a public official, and there is a much higher bar for public officials.
Yep.
But
Rex,
we didn't say anything worse than we've ever said before. What would have triggered him?
But Rex, he is a lawyer.
Oh, that's
and
right.
that makes him different than everybody else in society. That makes him different. He's above all the rest of us.
Those pesky
peons.
Lawyers. Yeah.
We're the peons, but
especially the ones that are lawyers for insurance companies and then want to tell us how insurance reform should be. Right. Okay. I digress.
Bart, are you talking about elected, legislators, politicians who are lawyers? Is that?
Well, wait a minute. Let me just throw out
isn't that above just a lawyer? If you're a politician and you're a lawyer, there's just a lawyer. There's the peons. We're down here. There's lawyers, and then there's the politician lawyers that are above them,
Yeah,
right?
but that pyramid is actually the other way in reality. They just think that they're above us. Really, it's like below us, and how much further down can you get, especially if you're an insurance attorney claiming insurance reform. And of course, I can relate everything back to fishing or guns, but you're also supposed to be pro Second Amendment, but you can't override the dadgum governor for constitutional carry. Thank you, Danny McCormick. When you've got a majority down there in the House, but y'all are all supposed to be conservatives, a bunch of BS. All right, so there, I'll get off my soapbox for a second.
Well, well, just the thing is the word on the street is that we're old school, and us calling him Seabiscuit is inaccurate. That is not the descriptions that out there on the street is people what they're calling him. They've coined him and given him a new nickname.
That may be true. The more and more we do the show, the more gray hair both of us get, by the way.
We do, yeah. I mean, and look, the pay sucks, but apparently, when we talked about him last week and we were describing him, there was some nickname floating around on Facebook or wherever, and remember KKK Seaball.
Oh, now I get the Wizard
Remember that?
Awakens. Yeah, and look, that's not a rumor.
So,
look,
but we were informed that nickname was inaccurate. Whoever coined him with that was not right, that was wrong, that the actual nickname that is being used out there is the Wizard.
The Wizard. Interesting. And look, I want to be crystal clear that and it's not whether Seabiscuit's an attorney or not. I don't really care about that, but we didn't actually start that rumor. That whisper campaign was started elsewhere. That's been brought to our attention dozens and dozens of times, but now I get the Wizard. I was trying to figure out, is he going to be going around in a little blue pointy cap with moon and stars on it as a wizard like Gandalf? But apparently that's not what that term means.
Well, I was actually thinking more along the lines of the Wizard of Oz.
Oh,
I mean, and he's the guy behind the curtain.
Yeah.
But
and got all the little flying monkeys running around doing his bidding. Well, no, that was the witch. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, but he's probably mad because the monkeys are doing some of his work.
Right.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe he's not the wizard.
Maybe he's not. Maybe he's one of the flying monkeys.
He may be one of the flying monkeys, but he's definitely one of the wizards. Now, whether he's the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, I don't know.
Maybe he's a flying monkey wizard.
Maybe he is. Either way, he's a wizard at monkeying around. No doubt.
And since we really have lawyers that are triggered and really closely paying attention to every word that we say, let me just give the disclaimer that we are citizen journalists who give our opinion. Really, we consider ourselves pundits, and we do peddle in rumors and innuendo sometimes when we think there might be a little basis of fact, or if enough people bring it up to us. So, with the disclaimer over, let's proceed on.
Well, do you know what the deal is? You know what I think why he's so triggered? And look, by all means, Wizard, Seabiscuit, the former Seabiscuit, Wizard of Caddo, come on the show and let's clear the air. Come on right now. Text me and I will send you the link for you to come on the show and let's talk about it. Let's clear the air. We're not hiding. Come on. Let's talk about it. So I think kind of where this story kind of got off is one, the picture of him. And you just heard Chris Alexander talking about Republicans and Democrats,
right. and RINOs.
Yeah, I mean, and I got a link in that's in the notes. I mean, you know who announced for mayor today?
Who would that have been?
Greg Tarver. Remember the picture last week with Alan Seaball sitting to the right of Greg Tarver and Beryl Peacock sitting right there at the same table with him? Remember?
What an amazing coincidence.
I mean, and Alan went on this triggered diatribe about lying liars, and he doesn't support Greg Tarver, and he supports...
Maybe he doesn't, but he was damn sure sitting beside him. How's he going to dispute that? And yeah, David Womack, let me go back and find the picture.
I mean, he was sitting beside him. It's indisputable. And Beryl Peacock was sitting right there with him. But look, I've got some more innuendo and lying liars that we are, I've got some more innuendo on that.
Okay,
You
so
want it?
well, sure.
Uh, Sources tell me that one of the people sitting at that table is
Mm-hmm.
bucking for a job with Tarver.
No way. Surely not.
I'm just saying, and with our guest earlier, we talked about it. I mean, word on the street is that somebody's bucking for a CAO job.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't doubt that a bit. That's the way that stuff works. It's, rubbing elbows and all that sort of thing. Honestly, it's the reason I don't do most of these meetings. You've heard me say it all the time. I don't do the dog and pony shows because that's generally what that crap is. I don't.
That's true, but so this picture triggered, the wizard. He got all triggered over this, but he's also gotten triggered over the revelations that's floating around out there about him being supposedly, as sources say, put up for the judge's position, and
Right.
he got turned down after a background check.
Wait a
And
minute. Now, according to Seabiscuit's whisper campaign side, he it was just taking too long, and so he just told him, "Nah, I'm not interested anymore." So, to be fair,
well,
that's what his
you
side
know
has
what?
put out.
That may be true, but it doesn't make the other side not true either. One of the stories is right, and one of the stories is wrong. I don't know which is, but you know what? I think I've got an idea how to settle it. If the wizard won't come on the show and help us figure it out, and just tell us the deal,
Yeah,
what
straight up.
actually happened when he was in school, if anything happened, if he won't tell us, I think there's a way we might can figure this out, Rex.
And how would that be?
I'm thinking that this will be like Washington D.C. style politics here. I think that what we need to do is we need to send a FOIA request to the FBI for 302s
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, that's interesting.
to find out on the background check what did they come up with. And I will point out that some of this, I'm going to correct some information that has been out there, and I don't remember what we said in the last show,
We said a
but
lot. I
about,
can't remember it all either.
yeah, but we may have said that his principal, he may have made some derogatory, or either I don't know if we repeated the whoever it's out there, but there was supposedly, yeah, like, okay, Haygood is saying
Yeah,
his
Haygood
high
said
school
it.
principal.
So I'm going to put this comment up too. And of course, you could be a grand wizard of a lot of different things. I mean, maybe he likes the Lord of the Rings, which I'm a huge fan of too, by the way, Barry Butler. So no, he
Well,
would not be a wizard as in Gandalf. He would be as in Saruman.
well, let me pose a question. So if that's being said is that he made some racial comment to his principal back then, and that's true that the FBI got a hold of that, and
Yeah, hypothetically
appointment
speaking.
his appointment got nixed. I'm wondering, can anybody tell me how you could make a racial comment towards a white lady?
Maybe called her
Because
right.
because what I understand is the principal of that time was a lady by the name of Sandra McCullough, who was a
Hmm.
white lady. Now,
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm wondering about that.
I I don't know. That would be, I'm from the middle and the other side of the state, so I would have no idea. I'm trying to. So she was supposedly the principal. I'm going to try to Google her real quick, see if I can
She was
find that.
supposedly the principal at that thing,
Okay, here we
and
go. She was a teacher and principal in Caddo Parish for 28 years before joining the faculty at Northwestern as a professor and director of the Division of Education. She returned to Caddo Parish as principal and has served as principal of Captain Shreve since '94. After her return. So obviously, I guess Seabiscuit's probably our age, so he would have been in high school in the '80s. I think. I'm really not sure how old he is. Um,
yeah,
hmm.
so I'm going to call BS that he made some racial remark to the principal. But what I will tell you is that I'm told that there's a possibility there wasn't a racial comment if it was directed to her.
Well,
There is another derogatory circumstance that could have happened.
hmm.
And then sources say as well that it probably wasn't the principal, but it was actually an assistant principal.
Hmm.
And here's the thing.
Well, all right, but
I want to go
let
ahead.
me clear the air real quick. So I just Googled uh, Sandra Sandra McCullough, and I can verify that this is a picture of Sandra McCullough. And I don't know, I don't care if she's white, black, pink, brown, or purple, but she appears to be very Caucasian to me.
Yeah, I obviously. So there wasn't a racial comment, but again, sources are saying that there may have been another derogatory comment if it was made to her. And
Mm-hmm.
then so here's what I think. I think because you know how lawyers do, especially uh political lawyers,
Mm-hmm.
I think the wizard should come on and he should explain to us, did he make any negative comment, any whatsoever negative comment to anybody in administration that was brought up, you know, in the appointment to him to a judicial seat that affected that. What is that
Well,
accurate or is that inaccurate? Is that rumor true or not? But I mean, he's the one running for office. Doesn't the public have a right to know whether, he
look, here's the thing. Let's say
and then
hypothetically.
does it matter going back that far?
Well, no, honestly, I don't think it does. But let's say, hypothetically speaking, let's say that the scenario is true and some sort of derogatory comment was made to a school official by the younger version of Seabiscuit, hypothetically. Well, for any three-letter agency to go back and find that, there would have to be some sort of written documentation. He would have had to have been reprimanded and it be on his school record or something like that. How else? I mean, otherwise, how else would they know? Unless they talk to somebody and somebody says, "Oh, well, I remember him saying this, back then in school." But they wouldn't just go on that. Surely not.
Yeah, so obviously going back through people's Facebook pages and all kind of anything is,
Eh,
fair game, but when it comes to a political lawyer, I mean,
well,
they
it's a
get
different ballgame.
triggered when you start questioning things. They get triggered and can't handle it. They can dish it out fine and they can beat up everybody, but they can't take it themselves.
Well, exactly correct. And they know going in that as a politician, they're going to be a target. And again, the legal bar is much higher when you're a political figure um, as far as what can and can't be said about you. Look, I'll give you an example. The video that I rolled at the beginning of the kid breaking off on the limb and going head first in the water, basically noodling during a catfish tournament or during a bass tournament, where I had him going in and then I freeze framed that. Do you know where I got that idea, Duke Lowry?
Tell me.
Do you not remember the Dukes of Hazzard?
Oh, that
And
racist propaganda?
yeah, I mean, my goodness, they had the Confederate flag on the roof of the car. But when they would do jumps and during the beginnings of the show, they would always freeze frame the car or something in mid action, and then Waylon Jennings would come on and say, "Uh-oh, better watch out there, Duke boys," or something like that. That's where I got that idea. So we can do that, but as a politician, there's a higher bar for that, and there's also a much higher bar as to what the public can say about you, whether you like it and get your panties in a wad or not.
Well, I'm just wondering, is he going to take us up on our offer and come on the show tonight or not?
I don't know.
I mean,
I would really
how
like to
many
discuss
times
insurance reform too, so he needs to come
he's
on
running
sometime.
he's running for office? Come on and address
Yeah,
these. Is he just not going to do it?
I
He
know.
I mean, so
He's got
or
my phone
maybe
number. He's got your phone number. It's not like he doesn't know how to find us.
so anyway, so if he's not going to come on, I mean, does that mean that we keep talking about him till he comes
Absolutely.
on?
Well, we're going to talk about him even if he does or doesn't come on. So
Well, I mean, he's another one of these conservatives, right?
supposed to be Constitutional carry,
Qu- Well,
override, vetoes, get it done. All right. Anyway,
well, did anybody ask him about his $1 billion sales tax vote?
wait, what?
What?
Yeah, say
Go
that
to cut
again. Did I?
12. Didn't go to cut 12. I
Yeah, hold
mean,
on. I'm kind of. Hold on.
did everybody forget the conservative wizard votes for tax increases?
Wait a minute. 12. Okay, so that's a whole PDF. Let me see. I think I can just drag it. Yes, I can. I love this software. Oh, wait. Let's see. So what was this bill? This is HB 62 of 2016, the first extraordinary session. So let's see. I don't see Seabiscuit listed there. Oh, that's right. His name's Seaball. I'm sorry. There he is right there. He did vote yay. So what was this bill?
Well, if you'll flip over to the next cut
Page.
13,
Okay.
you'll see the note. That was a sales tax. That was a sales tax increase from right there.
Whoop.
$1 billion.
Yeah. New law levies an additional 1% sales tax and state sales and use tax on sales of tangible property. It was already 4%, and so they were running up to 5. Wait a minute. I thought, so conservative and anti-tax and blah, 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 but I know it's not innuendo. It's not rumor. I mean, these are actual documents. We didn't make these up.
Yeah, but I mean, what about insurance, Rex? Didn't he come to the PEC and argued against Ryan Gaddy that the insurance reform,
and look, I give him credit for reaching out to the PEC and coming on and giving his side after Gaddy. But I got to tell you, exactly zero of what he said in that meeting, as far as I can remember, has come to fruition. I got the video. I'm the one that recorded the video and posted it. So I need to go back and review that video. I need to review what Gaddy said, and I want to cross compare the two with reality. And I would, we need to discuss that.
So I'm wondering, what he said, that might be found in those FBI 302s if we can get our hands on them. We're going to try. I'm wondering what was said. He could clear the air very easily on that. He could pop on the show and clear that up. I'm wondering if $1 billion tax increase on everybody, is that his idea of conservatism? I'm just curious. And I'm also curious about when are we ever going to finally see these insurance savings? I mean, that he was, I'm wondering when we're going to see that.
I don't. I've pretty much given up. Man, I hate to waste so much breath on Seabiscuit.
The wizard. That's the new nickname on the street. That's what they're calling him, is the wizard.
The wizard. Look, hey, it's a cool.
But I like Seabiscuit. I got to tell you, I'm old school. I like Seabiscuit.
Look. Personally, and not that I've ever hung out with him or anything like that, but the couple of times I met him personally, he would actually probably be a nice guy. I just don't agree with some of what he says and does. Speaking of,
did you know?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let's get off of there. Where are we going to go? The Bossier Parish School Board, or do we want to tease everybody, give everybody a minute to tag some teachers, because y'all are going to want to hear this. We've got some anonymous information that was sent to us that has made its rounds to the school board and to the superintendent. I don't know who wrote this. They blurted out. I can kind of read between the lines a little bit, but the Bossier Parish School Board is they're not on fire. But they got some stuff going on.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to add that to the list just so folks know. So, folks, this is the part where you want to quickly tag in either your local school board rep or some teacher friends so we can trigger them. And let's talk about, let's see.
Yeah, everybody loves anonymous school board scuttlebutt. I mean, and we've got some good anonymous stuff that was sent in, and we're going to show it to you here in a little bit. And what we are told is that every one of your school board members got it, and the superintendent got it as well too. And
all right, so let me make sure what cuts are those. So I'm sitting over here typing. Here we go. I got it. Cuts. 8, 9, 10, and 11, I think, right?
Yeah, but yeah, we already kind of covered. I'd put it in the notes that the school board elections are coming up,
Right.
and qualifying is the next 3 days this
Mm-hmm.
week. So if you want to serve, a school board is a great place to serve. Highly recommend people step up to the plate. We need good people.
Yes.
So is there a disparity in spending in the Bossier Parish school system? That is the question.
Well, clarify what you mean by is there a disparity in spending?
Well, maybe should I say, is the Bossier Parish School Board, the board and the superintendent, are they wagging the dog to the taxpayers?
Oh, surely not.
I mean, why would we think that? I mean, here we had these bond proposals or renewals. Remember renewals here recently, and there's other ones from the past. And this kind of wasn't really on our radar, but I'm just wondering how many people think that an AstroTurf field should be a priority of the Bossier Parish School Board and the Bossier Parish school system. How many people think having an AstroTurf on the football field should be a priority?
Okay, and while folks, y'all are thinking about that, we want to hear from you in the comments. All right, so is this AstroTurf going to be funded by the taxpayers? Do they have a private donor? Let's see, didn't airline, did they get, what was it, new bleachers or something? I think it was in the
Well,
newspaper. Jerry Juno and his wife donated $1 million or something to airline, I think.
as it would turn out, Airline High School got an AstroTurf field. But did you know that Airline High School wasn't the first?
Okay, but I want to be clear. So, am I remembering that was a Juno that donated for the AstroTurf? The privately
Yes,
funded?
he
Okay.
did.
All right.
He
So I said
privately
bleachers, but
funded
it
and
was actually
donated
the
it.
Astro. Okay.
Yeah, it was the AstroTurf at Airline High School. You know
Okay.
what? Great hat tip to him.
Right. Yeah, that's fine. Somebody wants to
That
cut a
is all
check
great.
for it, go ahead.
But did you know Bossier High School has one?
Why, no, I did not.
Did you know who paid for it?
Why, no, I do not.
It was not the Bossier Parish School Board, but
Oh,
it
it
was
wasn't. Well,
none.
okay.
No, sorry, Bob. It was none other than, all right, citizens of Bossier taxpayers.
I
You
still,
footed that bill.
I still don't have a drum roll please thing here.
You don't. You don't. Which brings me to the newest AstroTurf field that, and it'll be the first one that the Bossier Parish School Board is going to pay for. And guess what? They're going to pay for Parkway to have one.
Hmm. Wait, whoa,
So,
whoa, whoa. I was sitting here typing away. Rewind 10 seconds.
okay, Parkway High School, the Bossier Parish School Board is going to pay for an AstroTurf field for Parkway High School.
Isn't that like a little shell game, or like when your parents told you to eat everything on your plate and you kind of shuffled the food around to make it look like you're eating the green peas even though you really weren't?
Well, we're not going back down memory lane for you, and we're not going to force you to eat no peas. But what I would say is something that caught our attention. An anonymous source sent us a letter from a former educator in Bossier to the regarding this issue to the school board and the superintendent about an AstroTurf field. Now, I mean, look, I like my Sobo people. A lot of folks that watch our show are Sobo, and this
All
ain't a
right.
slight on you, but we're talking about, and we're not going to get into the wisdom of what's better, maintenance of turf or AstroTurf. That's not what this debate is going to be about. But what it is going to be about is AstroTurf in the fields and the school board paying for this, and especially paying for it with, I would argue, bond monies that may not have been the original intent. Now, remember, we've talked about that before. That's where this thing is kind of going sideways. And are there other needs across the parish? And is there a disparity between some schools and other schools? I'm going to jump out there and say I think there may be a disparity.
Well, and look, I'll pull that screenshot or cut eight here in just a second. So, not to rewind too far back, but remember it was what was it, 2018 or 2019 with the 40% tax increase, blah blah blah, and the whole school board got triggered when uh, we all came out against it, and a majority of the people in Bossier did because we're like, wait a minute, y'all are top heavy, and no, y'all are not that concerned about the teachers. So things like this would lead citizens and taxpayers to think the same thing again. Wait a minute, you got all these problems with teachers, and teachers are walking away, and Bossier doesn't pay enough, and wham, 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 wham. Again, not the teachers; they deserve to be paid, but the school board and the head cheerleader. But yet, apparently, $1 million in AstroTurf.
Well, there's some great comments going up. Barry Butler says Jerome Darby is upset about that. The school board can afford a 1.4 million football field, but cannot afford to pay for school security. That's another story in itself. Talking about the sheriff saying from this point forward, his school resource officers won't be out doing traffic duty at the intersections because that's not what his job is. His job is school security. Well, how can he do school security during that time in the afternoons and the mornings if he's out having to direct traffic? That's a
Yeah,
great point.
yeah, good point.
But and the police jury, if I understand correctly, has jumped up there and they're even jumping into the fray. And so Darby would be correct to make the argument, okay, so we've got a deficit in school security or a problem here with security and those issues, but yet we're going to make a uh, AstroTurf football field a priority. Now
Yeah,
that's
and
kind of getting.
now, Greg Bell did post a link in the comments, and it deals with the cost of AstroTurf maintenance and all that versus natural grass. That's not the point here, Greg. Not at all. That's so. I did take a look at your article, but that nowhere near what we're talking about. All right, so sorry, dude. Continue on.
Yeah, so this thing obviously has kind of been flying under the radar, but we had sent to us anonymously a copy of a letter from a former educator that was sent to the school board. I'm assuming, I haven't looked at the school board meeting. I'm pretty sure that they've already voted on this and moved forward, but the letter's pretty amazing, and I have it listed cut 8, 9, 10, and 11, and I think one of the pages is the 10th page is a duplicate,
Okay.
but it's kind of long. If you want to read it,
Yeah,
rock and roll.
I'll try to roll through it pretty quick. So it says, Bossier Parish Schools is spending money on their first artificial turf football field. Is it fair and equitable? As a former principal, I would like to address concerns regarding bond issues that were voted and passed in previous elections, namely athletic facilities and the intended purpose of purchased land. The point of this has to do with being fair and equitable with athletic facilities in Bossier Parish for boys and girls. In the previous bond issue, we as parents and staffs were tasked with coming up with the needs for our schools. Meetings were held, and the superintendent and his staff gave us guidance. As it relates to artificial turf fields, I asked to get on the bond issue an artificial turf football field at Lawton High. This would have been the first of its kind in Bossier Parish. Having a discussion with the superintendent at the time, I was told that he did not have a problem with it, but if we built one, we would have to build 6, one for each school. I respected that decision and moved on to alternate projects. 2012, same process was conducted to assess the needs of each school as we asked the public to approve the bond issue. So this is back in 2012. From my perspective, it is not really the true needs of the Bossier Parish school system, but a laundry list of needs for all areas of the school system to achieve the highest voter support. That's interesting. Surely not, trying to get things that constituents want. It is politically driven and not at all transparent to the voters. Once the bond issue was sent to the voters, artificial turf fields were not included in the bond proposal. Imagine that. And it passed. It actually did not pass favorably in all school district areas. roughly 6 years ago, although excluded from the bond verbiage, there was a move to construct 4 artificial turf football fields at all high schools, with the exception of Plain Dealing High School. All right, let me move on to the next one. Ooh, you're challenging my reading abilities tonight.
Yes, sir. You want me to take up some slack?
I got it. Says up. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. One point that needs to be explained in this is the only artificial turf field bought and paid for with Bossier Parish School Board money. The other 2 artificial turf fields are at Bossier High, paid for by the city of Bossier. Now, they said it was a grant, and I tried to do some research, and I could not find where this was a grant, but it was a straight up paid for by the city of Bossier. So I don't know if that's 100% correct, but the city of Bossier did ante up for the Bossier High School one. And Airline High School, paid for by a private individual who we have noted was Jerry Juno. I know this is lengthy, but my point is we have many needs in Bossier Parish, both with athletic facilities, old academic buildings, and only one useful auditorium at Airline High School. Girls at Halton High are having physical education classes and practicing basketball in the first gym ever constructed in Bossier Parish in 1938. Did y'all hear that?
It's historical.
I know where that gym is. On a side note, it still has wooden backboards. Can you imagine that?
Wait. Now, I was going to ask what's the condition of the floor. Has the floor been redone? Have the bleachers been redone? But it still has wooden backboards. Okay. Well,
Also, there were 2 other gyms constructed like it. One was in Rocky Mountain School, had been closed for years, and one at the first Benton High School, not the second or the third one. In my opinion, my former superintendent was right. If you build a turf field for one school, you should build turf fields for all schools, Plain Dealing and Benton included. How is our leadership and board making decisions that go against the will of the voters? How do they distinguish which athletes or which schools deserve the opportunity to play on artificial surfaced fields? Our leadership team and board members need to make decisions that are fair and equitable to the students of Bossier Parish. On the equity part, one might ponder why girls and boys at Benton and Halton have to travel to Bossier to play soccer. If they had an artificial field, they could play at their home facility. Changing the needs of a bond issue after it was voted on by the public creates a political animal that could be detrimental to the trust of the voting public. Why should some coaches be tasked with field preparation and upkeep and others not? Regardless of what you get from this information, I am for all student athletes playing on the best athletic facilities in all sports at.
let me move on to cut. I think you said cut 10 might be a. Yeah, cut 10's a deal. So hold on, folks. Hold that thought. Yeah. Cut 11. Let me zoom it up. All right. You got it, or you want me to finish it out?
Go ahead.
All right. At all schools, including Plain Dealing, our leadership team should give better guidance and direction on fair and equitable buildings and athletic facilities. How does the Bossier Parish School Board and leadership team agree that the only artificial turf field they have ever funded goes to one particular school or one particular high school? In closing, do you think voters would have been in support of the bond issue if it was strictly to purchase land? Land purchased through a bond issue should be used only to build approved projects as it was presented to the voters. If you buy the land, it should be for a specific purpose with adequate approved funding available. Pixelated out, former principal, current taxpayer. Okay, so that was very interesting, and he brought up some very, very valid points. Let's hear your thoughts in the comments as we continue on down the rabbit hole of the Bossier Parish School Board. And I want to also mention one thing real quick, and I may be jumping ahead here. So let's see. I think it was up here. Yeah, Barry Butler mentioned we kind of alluded to it. The school board has asked the police jury to fund security, and the jury approved the request. yesterday. There's that little shell game.
So you've got the police jury paying for school board stuff. The school boards will say, "Well, we don't have enough money to do this." You got the sheriff's office providing, security,
Whoa, 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 whoa,
and
whoa, whoa, whoa. The sheriff's office does not provide security. The sheriff's office is paid for that security. Don't forget. About
okay,
130 grand a year, at least that was according to um, Sheriff Whittington himself at the PEC meeting several years ago. Because what was the school board member's name? Jack Kelly? Was that him? I always get his first name wrong. Anyway, he came to the school board meeting and, came to the Republican PEC meeting and disclosed to us what the SRO program was costing. And the good sheriff got wind of that and wanted to come back and give his side of it. And he brought up some valid points. But they don't just provide that. The school board's paying for it. Again, it's shuffling food around on the plate because it's all taxpayer money. All right. Sorry, Duke.
no. You're all fine. I am working on information as it's flowing in, and
Yes.
we may have a wizard update here in a second.
Yes. Did you
And
get that same one?
and by all means, Mr. Wizard, if you're welcome to come on the show, we would glad to hear your side of the story. Um, so I don't know, what does everybody think about the AstroTurf and picking the winners and losers in the parish? Obviously, Parkway High School has been chosen to be the winners of the blessing of the Bossier Parish school system to have an AstroTurf field, and Benton and Halton, they've been left out cold. But I think more interestingly, as the anonymous letter that had sent to us, um, points out that there's a lot of other needs, and I'm wondering about where that bond money comes from. I didn't watch the school board meeting, but I'm thinking the point he was trying to make is that we go to the taxpayers and we tell the taxpayers, here's what we're going to do with the money, and then we find a way to do something else with the money. And because what he articulated is that he wanted it to be out there for the public, to make the decision as to whether to pay for AstroTurf fields or not. And then fast forward to it wasn't included and the public didn't get it. And now we're using the money to do that.
Hmm.
And we're picking the winners and losers in the parish as to who gets AstroTurf or not.
There's so much to unravel in that.
Oh, there's a ton.
Yeah,
So
let's see. We've got a comment here. Horatio Brookins Jr. says work on Parkway appears to have started already. Michael Ferris says SRO is expensive but worth it. I'm not down in the SRO program, but in full disclosure, everybody needs to know what that costs because the sheriff's department doesn't provide that except for the sake of, they hire, train, and facilitate the officers, but the school board is basically cutting a check to the sheriff's office for that.
So, moving right along, Bossier City. Do you want to go to Bossier City or do you want to go back to the Wizard?
Well, I really want to go to Bossier City for a minute. And, well, I'll tell you what, let's go to the Wizard, then go to Bossier City because, that'd be changing topics, a little bit too far while we've got it front of mind. So, shall I put these pictures up there?
I mean, look, apparently, we may have touched another nerve and we're on to something because, that's the only, I'm reading into this and trying to put the pieces here together. But apparently there was some guy by the name of Donald Horton who potentially was an assistant principal, and I'm guessing he was an assistant principal at Captain Shreve during that time.
Right.
And this may be the subject of the how the rumors about the Wizard or whatever has something to do with this guy.
Yeah, and again, full disclaimer here. We are only addressing this rampant rumor and not accusing anybody necessarily of anything, just pointing out what is already out there and who was apparently the assistant principal at Captain Treve at that time, Donald Horton.
I don't know. I mean, the Seabiscuit the Wizard, please come on. Let's clear all this up.
Yeah.
Let,
Look, we get information concerning this all the time. And we have no idea, you know. We definitely would give you the benefit of the doubt. But it's out there. I mean, you can read through the commentary on the show, which, you know, we can't really control.
Yep. So Bossier City. We got the Wizard out of the way. I'm tired of talking about the Wizard. He's starting to bore me.
It's getting old. Whoops, that's cockroaches. Speaking of that Wizard. But anyway, let me get up to the right screen. Okay.
Snuck a little surprise on me.
Mm-hmm.
What are we at? 2
Okay.
hours, 2.5?
Oh, 2 hours and 9 minutes, and we still have over 60 people watching right now.
How about that? We haven't bored everybody to death. Well,
Yeah.
they're going to like what was cooking down in Bossier City today. I mean, there was a King David sighting.
Yes,
Did you
not
know?
not just a sighting. I mean, he definitely revealed himself and actually spoke. So let me get this. It's going to take me a second. I got to bring the windows back up because I had to close that on a second ago. So, kind of give everybody they had a city council meeting today. You know, we've paid attention to the city council, but there hadn't been that many fireworks lately.
Yeah, I wasn't really planning to pay much attention to the Bossier City Council meeting today, agenda, and I really didn't think much about it. But
Right.
you know, I kind of caught the tail. I caught the tail end of the meeting, and there was a few things that kind of jumped out at me, like some more change orders on some things, and
Yes.
there was a little bit of dialogue that went back and forth, and I remember I called you and I said, "Hey, you need to check this video out. You need to check this
Yes.
out."
And I did, and lo and behold, there it is right there, and I've got it queued up to where that particular change order ordinance is introduced. So let me, I'm going to hit play. I think the audio should work because, like I said, I had to redo everything a little bit ago before the show. But anyway, so I'm going to hit play, and let's see if we can hear Phyllis introducing the ordinance.
Ordinance to appropriate $275,000 from the 2015 LCDA bond issue for the completion of the East Bank Fire Station. First reading.
So moved.
Second.
Now, did y'all hear that, folks? That was what, Duke? 275, I think, or 79, something like that. 270 some odd $1,000.
Yep, that's right.
Change order. Okay, so here we go. And look, I want to give them credit. You know, when I mentioned to Brian Hammonds, what was it, a month or two ago, about increasing the audio at the city council meetings, I think he got it done because this audio is much nicer than what their videos normally are. And it's been that way for a couple of weeks. All right, here we go. So Brian Hammonds does have a couple of questions.
Motion, Mr. Free, second, Mr. Maggio. Any comments?
Yes. I got several questions. Why in the original phase was $117,000 plus removed out for these items, and now it's going back in?
The original reason to remove them was to get it within the available funds that had been allocated by the council for the project and get the project moving forward.
Did y'all hear that, folks? All right, here we go.
So basically just took money out to get the project going, so now here at the end, we've got a huge change order to put the original items back in to complete the project.
That's part of the request, yes, sir.
And look, I'll give Ben credit right here. He just straight up told him. Now, whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't sound very good, but Ben didn't back down from it. Of course, I think it was before his time, I think, on that part of it. But anyway.
I don't think so. I think Manchek was the engineers during this.
Oh, really?
So this would lay at his feet.
The plot thickens. Here we go.
I know all of this was done way before I think back in 2020 when the original ordinance came across for 2.1 million and then came back, and we have a contract, I think, for what, 289 million, 298 million, something like that with McInnes Brothers. Would it have not been easier just to come back and ask the council for the, for that amount to get it back up? I mean, it's just, I don't know. I mean, just in construction, you're taking something out just to get it in bid, but then that has to all go back in order to complete the project.
Yeah, and Brian, I don't know all the nuances back when that was done, but it could have been related to the way that bond that was used to fund that project was structured. Those bonds accrue interest over time, and at the time that the project was awarded, the funding was not there, but over time it's accrued enough interest to allocate this. Complete conjecture on my part, but I know that does happen over time.
And a hush falls across the room.
Mr. President, if we removed money from the beginning, I'm assuming after we awarded the bid to McInnes
Here we go.
Brothers, did we go to the other contractors that also bid and said, hey, we're removing these dollar amounts, is it gonna change your price any? To see if
Remember,
there was
we
another
don't
bid that
shop.
would have been just as competitive? Or were we required to?
Let me answer. I think you're asking a legal question. Am I correct?
What?
Yeah.
I'm asking.
All right.
yeah,
So I'm going to pause it right there. And Chris, again, love you, man, but you got to have your comebacks already thought out, because King David just left his flank wide open right there, and here again in a minute. So I appreciate the question, though, Chris, but you got to be ready for this. All right, here we go.
Yeah, did we go
You're
back and?
asking a legal question, which he's not a lawyer.
No, he was asking a financial question, and he's the chief engineer that's designated to speak on these issues, King David. That's what I would have said, but anyway, I'm not there,
But
of course.
but King David's a CPA by trade. Shouldn't he know that? It's not
Well,
a legal question.
I
It's a
think
money
he's-
question. It's a
I
CPA
think he's
question.
getting a little antsy sitting there in his seat, because if, and again, Chris, so far you're doing a good job, but if Chris would have been ready to redirect him around, then he would have really started squirming in that seat. But here we go.
Well, let's see where this goes.
Yeah, here we go.
So at that time that the decision was made, was Mr. Hall the city attorney? Was. So I don't think it's fair to ask him the decision that was made by the city attorney, who was the appointment at the time.
All right, now I'm going to pause right there again for a second. Do you remember who Chris addressed his question to? He didn't say, hey, Ben. He said, and I quote, Mr. President. That's an important deal.
Oh, you know what? That's right.
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, hold on. Let's
That's
go
right.
back. Let's go back. Let me
That's
see if I can
right.
play that. Hold on. Listen
You-
again.
Mr. President,
See there? So King David did what Chris mentioned earlier, and we've mentioned on the show before. I used to have a cute little meme for it. He just threw out a red herring. And unfortunately, Chris was on the right train of thought, but Chris fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. That's the only problem.
Now-
Got to be ready for those, Chris.
Now you also prompted me and reminded me about in the past. I think there was some dialogue where King David got all up in an uproar about addressing the president and not addressing the councilman. Do you remember
is
that?
correct. Yes, that is correct. All right, so I'm going to jump back to where David starts speaking. Notice his hands up there. Whoa, wait a minute. We can't go down this pathway because people might, actually start digging into this. Whoa, we can't do that. All right, so here we go.
I think you're asking a legal question. Am I correct?
I'm asking, did we go
You're
back and?
asking a legal question, which he's not a lawyer. So at that
I would have said, no, David, I'm not asking a legal question. Therefore, as usual, you are incorrect. Move on.
He asked, did the other bidders get the opportunity to rebid based on whether or not these things were all struck? Were they told that all these things were struck and they get to submit bids, based on that information?
Yeah.
Or did only one company get to bid with the change order?
It's not rocket science. All right, here we go.
Time that the decision was made, was Mr. Hall the city attorney?
He was.
So I don't think it's fair to ask him the decision that was made by the city attorney, who was the appointment at the time. My request would be that you ask Mr. Jacobs to look into why that decision was made rather than our city engineer.
And right there, Chris should have said, well, King David, request denied. Ben, blah, blah, blah. Or, excuse me, Mr. President, blah, 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 blah. Okay, here we go.
Okay, that's fair, and so I will ask that of the city attorney to look into.
And Tommy's sitting over there
Also,
going, man, I'm glad
I
he's not
noticed
on my
that
rear end.
change order for $127,000 never came before the prior council. So I guess this question would be for the city attorney. Would a change order of that size, even negative, need to come before the council?
Well, I don't feel
This
comfortable
is-
asking questions.
This is crazy, right?
Without a chance to review the entire file on the project out.
All right, stop right there. It's a procedural question, Jacobs. Has nothing to do with that particular project. Literally a procedural question. You two clowns. All right, sorry.
So do we bid in Bossier or not?
We don't shop around.
We don't.
King David could have just
what
led
more
with that.
confirmation do we need?
Yeah, King David should have just led with, Chris, we don't shop around, so shut up. That's what
I've
King
said
David
this
should have led with.
before. We don't shop. I mean, I'll say it again. Maybe you need to hear it multiple times.
All right, here we go. Dog and Pony Show.
Consulting with Mr. Hall, who made certain decisions at the time, consulting with the engineer. I feel it's always dangerous. When I start answering questions off the top of my head, sometimes I could be wrong, and the only thing worse than being wrong is being wrong in public.
Well, guess what, Jacobs? You're wrong in public again. Thank you for reminding us.
Yeah, how would the other companies feel? Barry Butler makes a good point. Could create a lawsuit from other companies.
Yeah,
I'm wondering if the other companies feel like if that's accurate or not. Did they get a fair shake?
Well, and that would give Jacobs something to actually do, but I hate to say it, I'm afraid with Jacobs at the helm of the legal department, we might lose, or the city would. All right, here we go.
Are you saying this would be a Shed Road Part 2?
What I would do is
yeah.
I would just, if you
The
could
blind
get with
leading the
me,
blind. Nothing against
and,
blind folks.
and I could take some notes and get all the questions that you have. I can pull the file on this particular project, and that way I could get you the answers, that you have requested, and I can assure myself that, that I am correct.
So, have I ever told you the saying, and folks, if you have kids watching or kids in the room, you might want to plug your ears for just a moment in just a couple of seconds. But there is a saying, and you may have heard me say it before, but it is dazzle them with brilliance or baffle them with, I'll do the PG version, baffle them with BS. So, do you think, folks in the comments, do you think that Jacobs is dazzling us with brilliant legal ease here, or is he baffling us with BS? Which one?
I think at this moment right here, they're all sitting up there. They all know the answer to the question, but none of them want to talk about it publicly. And all Chris did was just shine a little bit of a light on what everybody already knows.
Yeah.
That's all that he did. And you know what? Some of them sitting up there are disgusted. Some of them are not.
Yeah.
They're not disgusted at all. They're just like, why do I even have to be here? Why?
Yeah.
Why? I shouldn't even have to even be accountable to the public. I mean, this is stupid for me to even have to answer a question or even respond to this.
Yep, you are
I mean,
correct.
is that what I'm reading?
You've hit the nail on the head. Okay. So I'm gonna hit play for another few seconds. We'll listen to a little bit more of it, and then we'll jump ahead. I think you had another point there on the Shed Road debacle. So
It's very difficult for me to answer these questions when I'm not prepared to do so.
Hypothetically.
Yes, sir. That's fair enough. So this will be back on the agenda in 2 weeks, so we can look into that before that.
and crickets
Any
again. Can I play the
Additional
crickets?
discussion, council? Any comments from the public on this item? Council, cast your vote. Thank you.
And survey says. Survey says.
All right.
I just want to see what the vote is. I didn't actually watch this part of it earlier.
Did you vote? Brian? Yeah. I voted.
Okay.
Yeah, their voting machine was messed up, whatever.
All
But
right, I'll pause it right there.
let's jump ahead and we'll wrap up on this. How many people wonder about Shed Road? So all of you drive down Benton Road, you run the gambit on that, and then you get down to the Shed Road and you glance over there to the right and you see a couple of barricades up, and you're wondering what the heck is going on Shed Road, right? Is it going to open or not? Because remember, it was supposed to open back up.
Well, I would like to point out there's some red letters right there in that slide. What does that say?
Behind schedule. But
Yeah. It is what it is.
anyway,
Okay.
hit play. Let's see what Ruttenbuck has or has not to say.
Okay, here it is.
Can I ask you one question about this before you move on?
Yeah.
Is that grade crossing at Shed Road, right there by Smith Construction, is that gonna reopen before anything, or what is the?
Currently, they're working on the roundabout and things in that area. I don't know.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
It's possible that reopens through there.
Wait a minute. Wasn't there a bunch of discussion about the roundabout? You and I discussed the roundabout, went back and forth about the roundabout.
Oh yeah, but the railroad said they don't want a roundabout that close to their railroad. And if you're going to put a roundabout, you can't have no at-grade crossing.
Didn't he
at
just
Shed
say they
Road.
were doing something with the roundabout? Or am I hearing
Yeah,
that
he
wrong?
said no. He said they're still working on it.
What the hell?
They're still working on the roundabout.
Maybe they're working on taking the roundabout out, because I remember they couldn't have a roundabout. I mean,
Yeah, but no, they could have a roundabout if they close the at-grade crossing.
oh, that's right. Okay,
They,
I had
but
it
they didn't want
backwards.
to. They didn't want to make no changes to no plans. By gosh, we can't do
Okay.
that. We got to keep the roundabout.
All right, I had it completely backwards. And I brought up the point that, up there, just up this side of Homer on, what's the highway up there?
Yeah, that's right.
79,
That's right.
whatever. They got a big roundabout, and 18-wheelers go around it all the time. I've watched
You
them.
can go down to Highway 80 there. They got one right in the middle of Highway 80. You can see it
Yeah.
down there as well too.
All right, here we go.
But anyway,
more Ruttenbuck.
There, but I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
he doesn't know.
The Carriageway Pump Station again.
Oh, hey,
we'll
look.
off. He
start
doesn't-
on that.
They're
stage one
78 days
because
ahead of
some
that one.
Punch list items, warranty
Max Foot
items, and
Construction
things
getting
like
it
that,
done.
get that complete.
But hey, he doesn't know if it's going to open or not. I mean, he's only
East
the
Bank
engineer
Fire
for the city of
Station, very
Bossier.
close to being
I mean, and
complete
he's
there,
got
a little behind
he's got a
schedule.
partner.
Yeah.
Of course,
17
these change
days
order items
behind,
will include some additional days and things like that, assuming that the council approves that for some of these other items. But if you haven't been out there, it's beautiful. It's looking very good.
That's beautiful, and it's getting more
The
beautiful
LTRI
every day that goes
building's coming
by.
along,
More
a little ahead of
beauties.
schedule
Hey.
there.
At the rate of change orders,
Starting to
it's
get
going to
some
be
good
what's
production.
greater than
Again,
beautiful.
weather
I don't know.
is,
Beautimous.
albeit hot.
Brutal.
Miserable out there, very good for getting projects moving. The Highway 71 lighting improvements phase.
Does he say anything meaningful?
No, there's nothing
that will be
meaningful.
kicking
That's
off
it.
very soon.
I'm stopping it.
I'm done. I am done.
It's
I'm
the-
ready to punch out here.
It's the
So-
Charlie Brown teacher deal. Wah, 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 wah.
Yep. So I think we've about covered. Is there anybody in Bossier Parish that we left out talking about tonight?
Um, No, the one topic we didn't hit was bailing out the college. Let's get to that next show.
Let's cover that next show. You're right, because something tells me that we're going to have plenty to talk about even into the next show.
Right.
I expect we'll get a response from the cheerleader with the school board. I
Probably.
think, I don't know. I mean, there's still time. I'm looking at my phone. I still have not gotten a message from the wizard. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking that he's not going to come on and try to clear any of that up, and I guess he's not going to do that. Um, the SROs, obviously, they're not directing traffic. The police jury is going to foot the bill for more traffic cops, I guess, and you know, qualifying for the Bossier Parish school system is the next 3 days.
Yeah, lots of things going on, folks. So I would like to say thanks, of course, to everybody on behalf of Duke and I. We got almost 70 people watching at 2 hours and 30 minutes. We hit a whole bunch of topics, tried to clear the air on wizardry versus Seabiscuitry. And had a great guest. I really enjoyed the conversation with Chris, even though, we had a little bit of banter back and forth, but great conversation, good guest. Of course, Chris is welcome back anytime, and we would encourage all to go keep up with his new organization. I'll post that letter on the Facebook page as well, because he wanted to share that out far and wide. Anything else, Mr. Lowry?
That is all I have. You know, send us stuff anonymously. You see what it gets. We will put it up there, and we'll put it out there for the world to see, and let
We'll
people
go
make
from
their
there.
own decision.
And I would also like to point out, with the anonymous stuff, Proton Mail is the best way to do it. Otherwise, your name may get seen or may get used. Go make your free Proton Mail account. Don't put any identifying information. Send us an email to Bossier Proton Mail. Also, what we do here is not free, not just in time, but the software costs money, the public document requests cost money and resources and all that sort of thing. So, if you feel so inclined, go to BossierWatch.org. There's a donation link there. They're not anonymous donations, but of course we would never reveal that. But if you feel like donating us a little coffee money or, well, whatever, go right ahead. If not, I mean, we're still going to do this anyway. So, we just appreciate any help. And with that said, again, happy 25th anniversary to you and Miss Kara.
Well, thank you, sir. Thanks everybody for watching. Have a good night, Rex.
We're out of here. I'm hitting the finish button now. We'll see y'all next week, folks.